Chapter 778. Most likely it will be the same as usual. After all, there are only a few people in the Divine Master realm in the whole continent. No, that dog emperor may be a variable. But then again, where did this dog emperor come from? He's really too strong. In the roar, an island appeared in the center of the huge city. Even outside the city wall, the three big words above the island could be clearly seen. Floating Cloud Island. Below the floating cloud island, in the central area of the city, there were three huge squares. Looking down from the sky, one could see the three big words, Earth, Xian, and Huang. At the moment, there were fierce fighting roars in the three squares. Chu Bei played with a glittering and translucent token in his hand. The word Huang on the token was particularly conspicuous, and there was a big number 9 in the lower right corner. Let's go and join in the fun. Chu Bei held Mu Shuer's arm and said with a smile. Then they appeared in the square of the yellow board battle. As far as the eye could see, the outer area of the square was already filled with countless cheering spectators. In the center, there was a round brick platform with a diameter of 300 meters. It reflected the bright and translucent light from afar, giving people a sense of luxury and nobility. Right behind the brick platform, there was a rostrum with a golden background. The rostrum's layout was a bit special. The three luxurious and exquisite chairs were not arranged in a row, but in an arc. Perhaps it was a special adjustment. There was no so-called primary or secondary position in the three positions. The yellow board battle has entered the finals. Who do you think will be the first this year? It should be Han Yang from the sanctuary. He's too strong. As far as I know, he survived the 9 refinements of ice in the sanctuary and got the inheritance of Divine Master Ice. His cultivation directly rose from the martial king to the saint with 9 stars. It's a pity that the 9th on the yellow board didn't participate this year. The 9th guy seems to be the master of a small sect. The master of the Purple Cloud sect is a 20-year-old guy. I don't know if the oracle is mistaken. As far as I know, half a year ago, he was a waste with no cultivation. Time's up. The final battle begins. With a metallic clang, 9 silhouettes appeared on the circular platform. In the void, Chu Bei saw 2 familiar faces at a glance. The first familiar face was one of the 3 people on the rostrum. She was wearing a black gauze dress. Although her face couldn't be seen clearly because of the black gauze hat, it was possible to tell that she was a woman with a graceful and exquisite figure. The first time he saw this woman was in the ruins, and that was an accident. The second and third time he saw this woman was when she was a god's emissary, and she gave him the token twice. As for the second familiar face, it was one of the 9 people on the round platform, Saint Realm Han Yang. Back then, they had fought over the illusory seed. To be exact, he had already transformed into an old man and snatched the illusory seed from the old man. Whoosh! Whoosh! 9 figures landed on the circular high platform amidst the sound of breaking air. They stood side by side, nodding to each other as a form of greeting. They released a tyrannical aura that made the surrounding void tremble. Young martial uncle, master, and senior brother should have arrived long ago. Why can't I see them? In the sky, Mu Shuer tilted her head left and right, pouting as if she was looking for something. Hearing Mu Shuer's words, Chu Bei's powerful divine sense swept across the entire imperial city. In an instant, his divine consciousness locked onto a figure below. Then, he frowned and his face darkened. Whoosh! A divine rainbow streaked across the sky. Chu Bei and Mu Shuer appeared behind the figure in an instant. It was a man wearing a black bamboo hat and a loose black robe. The moment Chu Bei appeared, his body tensed up, and a murderous intent seeped out of his body. Master? However, just as a probing cry sounded, the man's murderous intent collapsed, and his body trembled slightly. Shuer, sect master, you! The man turned around, his face covered by the black bamboo hat. Who hurt you? Chu Bei's voice was low. With a wave of his hand, the man's loose black robe and black bamboo hat exploded at the same time. The man's body was covered in bloody scars, and there were several gaping holes in his chest. Although the wounds had been treated, they were still bleeding profusely. His left arm was also missing. Master, you... Looking at the severely injured Bai Feng, Mu Shuer fell into Chu Bei's arms before she could finish her sentence. Then she couldn't help but burst into tears. What the hell happened? Chu Bei wiped away Mu Shuer's tears with one hand and sent out several rays of light to cover Bai Feng's body with the other to heal his wounds. It's all his fault. Meeting Chu Bei's gaze, Bai Feng took a deep breath and suddenly pointed his right hand at the sacred region's Han Yang on the circular platform. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Listening to Bai Feng's narration, Chu Bei's eyes became colder and colder. The surrounding air became stagnant, and a piercing chill filled the air. Bai Feng originally came to the imperial city with a group of disciples in advance. However, when Han Yang from the sacred region learned that they were from the Purple Cloud sect, he slaughtered them without saying anything. 36 disciples all died tragically under Han Yang's sword. If he hadn't used his secret method, he would have died tragically under Han Yang's sword. Although he successfully escaped, he was still seriously injured, and his left arm was even cut off. Why? What enmity does the Purple Cloud sect have with him? Bai Feng roared, clenching his fists. His eyes were bloodshot, and his face was full of pain. Maybe it's because of me. After a sigh, Chu Bei stepped away. The reason why Han Yang hated the Purple Cloud sect was not only that he had snatched the illusory realm seed, but also that he had snatched the original Force puppet. Boom! With an earth-shattering boom, Chu Bei landed on the round platform. Who is this guy who suddenly appeared? Is he crazy? This is the final of the yellow board battle. What the hell does he want to do? When Chu Bei appeared on the circular platform, the spectators around were stunned at first. After they reacted, various voices were intertwined. It's him. On the rostrum, a graceful woman in a black gauze said in astonishment. Ling Yan, do you know him? The two people beside the graceful woman were confused. He is the Lord of the Purple Cloud sect, the 9th person on the profound token. The graceful woman bit her lips. She didn't say how she and Chu Bei knew each other. She just revealed his identity. Who are you? How dare you make trouble here? Just when the other two oracles on the rostrum were surprised, the referee on the platform shouted at Chu Bei. However, he hadn't even finished speaking when his entire body was blasted far away like a cannonball with a bang, and then he smashed fiercely into a jade pavilion. Chapter 779. He actually attacked the referee! In an instant, the spectators fell into a daze and looked at Chu Bei in disbelief. On the round platform, the 9 finalists frowned at the same time. Han Yang took a step forward and met Chu Bei's eyes. I saw you in the ruins! That old man is your master? Where is he? You deserve to die! Chu Bei spat out 4 cold syllables. Absolute beginning divine concealment! Sensing Chu Bei's murderous intent, Han Yang felt a chill in his heart. Without hesitation, he attacked first. With a loud shout, he held the long sword in his hand and danced in an orderly manner. Every time he waved the long sword, an enormous aura would condense on the tip of the sword. This aura kept accumulating until the golden sword radiance was as dazzling as the sun. Who the hell is he? Han Yang is using his strongest killing move right from the start. On the round platform, the other 8 finalists looked at Han Yang's dancing figure in shock. Absolute beginning divine concealment was a sword technique that only the successors of each generation of the sanctuary could cultivate. It was extremely difficult to cultivate, but once mastered, the sword momentum would be extremely terrifying. As the number of times Han Yang waved the long sword in his hand increased, the golden radiance on the tip of the sword increased. When the sword momentum reached its peak, the sword radiance actually intertwined to form a qilin that looked like it was cast in gold. Amidst the sound of the sword, the golden qilin formed by the sword radiance pounced at Chu Bei at lightning speed. Die! As the cold syllable fell, Chu Bei stretched out his right hand and suddenly clenched it in Han Yang's direction. Crack! With a crisp sound, the golden qilin shattered. Before Han Yang could even scream, he was crushed by an invisible force and his body exploded. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. Da-da-da, the shattered flesh and blood fell on the round platform with a low muffled sound. Everyone, including the 8 finalists and the 3 oracles, was speechless for a moment. They stared blankly at the high platform and Chu Bei's figure. Han Yang is dead, dead! After a long period of silence, someone finally let out a cry of surprise. In the next moment, the crowd was in an uproar. Everyone swallowed their saliva and looked at Chu Bei as if they were looking at a monster. The other party had appeared on the high platform for only a few seconds, but he had directly killed the most likely candidate for the champion of the yellow board. The other 8 finalists also recovered from their shock. They glanced at the flesh and blood on the stage, then met Chu Bei's eyes. They seemed to be afraid that they would end up like Han Yang. They were so scared that they immediately flew away. This guy who looked like he was in his 20s was really too terrifying. Your strength? The graceful woman in black took a deep breath and came in front of Chu Bei. Her small face was full of surprise. As the divine envoy of the sealed god pavilion, the head of the 7 great powers, she was in charge of a region and was responsible for distributing profound tokens. But now, she couldn't see through this mysterious person whom she had dealt with so many times. Is that where the sanctuary master is? Chu Bei glanced at the graceful woman and spoke indifferently before flying towards the floating island. He is going to the floating island. Oh my God! That is the place for the heavenless battle. Could it be that he's going to look for the domain lord of the sanctuary? The latter is one of the 7 great powers in the continent. Where did this guy come from? The divine envoy seems to know him. Looking at the direction where Chu Bei flew, the spectators started to discuss again. Rumble! At this moment, the floating island suddenly buzzed. This sound, the heavenless battle has begun! Along with the exclamation, hundreds of gorgeous lights appeared above the floating island. The lights intertwined in the distant sky and formed a huge picture. The picture showed the scene on the battlefield in the center of the floating island. The first to appear in the picture were 7 middle-aged men. They were standing on different sides and were dressed differently. However, they all had a superior aura. Apparently, they were the leaders of their respective forces. The most attractive thing in the picture was the big black dog with its teeth bared and an arrogant expression. All of you come at me together. I want to fight all 7 of you. The big black dog spoke in human language and looked at the 7 people with disdain. With a long howl, his proud voice floated over the floating island until it spread to the ears of every spectator. Pun! However, at this moment, another figure appeared in the picture. The moment he appeared, the jade platform in the center of the battlefield exploded and turned into a sky full of debris. Almost at the same time, the 7 great powers and the big black dog flew into the sky and cast their cold gazes on Chu Bei. Woof, woof, woof! After getting a good look at Chu Bei's appearance, the large black dog became inexplicably excited and barked incessantly. He gnashed his teeth savagely, and his eyes had turned blood red. He wanted nothing more than to tear Chu Bei into pieces. Your dog life is really tough. Chu Bei glanced at the large black dog. Although the large black dog was several times larger in size, he still recognized it with a single glance. This big black dog was the little black dog that had always appeared in the illusionary realms and had tried to harm him many times. Oh my God, he can't be acquainted with the Black Emperor, right? Could it be that the person the Black Emperor is looking for is him? What kind of secret is there between them? Hearing Chu Bei's words, the spectators' gazes switched back and forth between Chu Bei and the big black dog with curiosity in their eyes. May I know who you are? The 7 heaven roll powerhouses' gazes fell on Chu Bei and frowned. One of them asked aloud. The big black dog that appeared out of thin air recently was so powerful that it made their hearts palpitate. Since the young man in front of them who looked to be in his 20s knew him, he was obviously not a simple character. Chu Bei's cold gaze swept across the 7 people opposite him, and his cold voice was emotionless. Which one of you is the master of the sanctuary? What's the matter? A man in red stepped forward and looked at Chu Bei. With himself as the center, a red light spread far and wide. That was his domain. Chu Bei indifferently glanced at the red-clothed man, and simply and neatly slapped down with his palm. Suddenly, a giant hand appeared in the sky. It could be said that the hand covered the sky and directly slapped towards the red-robed man. "You're courting death." Looking at the giant hand that was slapping toward him, the master of the sanctuary's face darkened. With a furious roar filled with killing intent, the red light behind him surged and condensed into a giant statue of a god. It released an inviolable majesty that looked down on all living things. The God Emperor Warrior, this is the domain power of the master of the sanctuary's domain. Domain, what an unattainable ability! The crowd of cultivators who were watching the battle stared at the tall statue behind the domain master of the sanctuary in shock. Under the display of the domain master's power, the weaker cultivators could no longer stand upright. Even the powerful elders showed a pained expression and found it difficult to maintain their composure. Chapter 780. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the statue continued to expand. The gigantic figure seemed to fill the entire sky above Floating Cloud Island. It was as if a gigantic hand was enough to destroy the entire imperial city. Boom! However, such a soul-stirring statue was unable to withstand a single blow from the giant hand. Almost at the moment of impact, the statue disintegrated like ice melting in molten iron. How? How is this possible? The sanctuary master's pupils shrank as the statue was smashed to pieces. Before he could finish his sentence, the giant hand was already right in front of him. Boom! First, the domain dissipated. Then, the sanctuary master's defensive armor was shattered. His physical body and primordial spirit were annihilated and turned into nothingness. The sanctuary master is dead, dead! How is this possible? He's a 9-star supreme god. Even on the heaven leaderboard, he's still ranked 3rd. Has he already become so powerful? What grudge does he have with the sanctuary? He killed Han Yang first, then the sanctuary master. The crowd of spectators stared blankly at the projection above Floating Cloud Island. They had clearly seen the previous scene. Their faces turned ashen as if they had been struck by a bolt from the blue. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them from head to toe. Their bodies went numb. Everything happened so suddenly and unexpectedly that they were caught off guard. Just like how he killed Han Yang, the sanctuary master's death only took a few seconds. The power of an emperor! You've broken through to the divine emperor realm! The sealed god pavilion's pavilion master, Hu Pazong, and the other 6 powerhouses looked at Chu Bei in fright. They all took in a breath of cold air. They looked a little absent-minded, as if they had been struck by lightning. At their level, they could clearly feel that Chu Bei's true martial strength was different. It was a level of power that was above theirs. Even a monarch god would not be able to transform his true martial power. Only the legendary god Emperor Realm could do it. He killed a 9-star supreme god with a wave of his hand. No wonder I couldn't see through him. The graceful woman called Ling Yan muttered to herself. She was flabbergasted. Her brain seemed to have stopped working at this moment. She stood there motionless like a piece of wood, staring blankly at Chu Bei, who was above Floating Cloud Island. Sect Master, he is already so strong? Bai Feng was a little stunned, as if he had yet to recover from the shock. Sir, who are you? The Divine Seal Pavilion's pavilion master, and the others stared at Chu Bei with vigilance. Their bodies were as tense as a rock, and their hearts were as heavy as lead. Chu Bei ignored the pavilion master and the others. Instead, he hovered above the central plaza and swept his gaze across the earth, mystic, and yellow rankings battlefields before waving his sleeve. In the next moment, an invisible force swooped down from the sky. Ah! In an instant, shrill screams filled every corner. Bang! 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 All of the cultivators who wore saint-level robes distorted and exploded at almost the same time. I am the Purple Cloud Sect Master! In the future, if any force dares to offend the Purple Cloud Sect, they will be the next saint level. Chu Bei stood with his hands behind his back. Although his voice was not loud, it sounded in the minds of everyone present and shook their hearts. Purple Cloud Sect? Could it be that third-rate sect? How could such a small sect give birth to such a terrifying existence? No matter what, just stay away from the Purple Cloud Sect in the future. Their sect master killed a saint-level domain lord with a raise of his hand. In that case, isn't he worthy of being first on the heaven rankings this year? After all, even if the Divine Seal Pavilion's Pavilion Master is stronger than the saint-level domain lord, he is only slightly stronger. He is not a match for him. Hearing Chu Bei's words, the spectators were even more shocked. Since he had casually killed a saint-level domain lord, there was no need to continue the heaven rankings tournament. Woof! 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 Suddenly, the large black dog started barking again. His barks shook heaven and earth. Human, you are only a 2 stars Divine Emperor. Hee, your Lord Dog is already a 7 stars Divine Emperor. This time, it is finally Lord Dog's turn to kill you. The large black dog twisted his head and bared his teeth at Chu Bei without restraint. His words were filled with pride and arrogance. Did you hear that? The Dog Emperor is a 7 stars Divine Emperor. Is that true? The Dog Emperor seems to have a grudge with the Purple Cloud Sect Master. If the Dog Emperor is really a 7 stars Divine Emperor, then wouldn't the Purple Cloud Sect Master be in danger? The Dog Emperor's voice rang in their ears, causing the spectators to exclaim again. Mu Shui nervously pinched the corner of her clothes as she looked at Chu Bei's back. Her beautiful eyes were filled with worry. The Divine Seal Pavilion's Pavilion Master, Hu Pasek's Sect Master, and the other experts looked at the large black dog. Just as doubt appeared on their faces, it was replaced by shock in the next moment. There was a loud boom. The large black dog suddenly released an incomparably violent aura. This aura broke through the clouds, and all kinds of terrifying phenomena appeared above his head. Woof! The large black dog barked at Chu Bei, spitting out a white light from his mouth. The white light transformed into a heaven-piercing sword. It was incomparably sharp, as if it could cut open the heavens. Chi La! The peerless heavenly sword slashed down, and a terrifying divine light instantly appeared in front of Chu Bei. Chu Bei frowned. His left hand danced, forming a silver shield tablet in front of him. Its defensive power was astonishing. With a muffled bang, the silver shield tablet shattered. Chu Bei's body retreated a few steps. Hee, that sword just now was only 80% of Lord Dog's strength. The large black dog raised his head and looked at Chu Bei with incomparable pride. Chu Bei looked at the large black dog calmly. He had to admit that this dog had too many secrets. The other party's cultivation speed was actually above his, the destined protagonist who had a cheating device. Human, take another attack from Lord Dog. The large black dog put his 2 front paws together and transformed into a large bell. With the sound of the bell, the heavenly Tao resonated, and all things moved. It was as if the universe had turned upside down. The long sound of the bell spread out with the imperial city as the center, spreading over tens of thousands of miles of mountains and rivers. Behind the large bell, the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers appeared. Among them were millions of miles of mountains and rivers, flowers, birds, fish, beasts, and stars. There were also gods kneeling on the ground. It was simple and grand, and it revealed the secrets of the beginning of heaven and earth. Woof! There was another bark. The large black dog gripped the large bell and pressed it down on Chu Bei. Wherever it passed, multiple pitch-black cracks were torn open in the void, and it was extremely terrifying. What a terrifying large bell! In the collision just now, the Purple Cloud Sect Master fell into a disadvantage. Looks like what the Black Emperor said was true. Heavens, a 7-star Divine Emperor's dog! How on earth did he cultivate? Sure, lower your voice. If the Dog Emperor heard you, it would be terrible. The spectators stared at the distant battlefield above floating Cloud Island without blinking. Chapter 781. Even the Pavilion Master and other 9 stars supreme gods held their breaths as they stared intently at the sky. The aura from the giant bell was simply too terrifying. If they were the ones facing the giant bell, they would have collapsed before the battle even began. I didn't expect you to surprise me every time. I really can't bear to kill you. Chu Bei's calm voice faded as Genesis Heaven power surged in his palm. You still want to kill Lord Dog? Let's see how Lord Dog will torture you this time. The large black dog opened his sinister mouth and barked as he swung the giant bell towards Zhou Yuan. Clang! However, just as the large bell was about to strike Chu Bei's body, a metallic clanging sound spread out from the center of the large bell. Chu Bei stretched out a finger and easily blocked the giant bell's attack. Impossible! How can a mere 2 stars God Emperor block Lord Dog's attack? The large black dog was stunned as he stared at the index finger on the bell. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Crack! Chu Bei retracted his finger, but it was also at this moment that the giant bell shattered into countless fragments. I'll definitely dissect you properly this time. Chu Bei's mocking voice sounded. A chill inexplicably surged in the large black dog's heart when he heard this. However, before he could put some distance between himself and Chu Bei, his body was suddenly restrained by an invisible force, and he couldn't move at all. Boss, can you pretend that I didn't come here? The large black dog seemed to know that he had failed again and hurriedly begged Chu Bei for mercy. Chu Bei smiled and ignored him as he clenched his right hand. Genesis Heaven power burst forth, and the large black dog let out a miserable howl. His originally violent aura instantly fell to rock bottom, and his Yuan spirit and body simultaneously turned into tens of thousands of pieces that floated in the air. Dog Emperor, is he dead? What's going on? Wasn't the Purple Cloud sect master at a disadvantage? Why is the Dog Emperor dead in the end? Looking at the flesh and blood floating in the sky, the spectators were in a daze. The situation had changed too quickly, and they couldn't react at all. Rumble! At this moment, the void trembled and a strange pitch-black hall appeared. There was a stone tablet in front of the hall, and there were 4 dazzling words carved on the tablet. Bloodthirsty Palace. In the next moment, under everyone's astonished gazes, a pitch-black light poured out of the palace and shone on the large black dog's shattered flesh. Then, the flesh and blood gathered together again. After about 2 minutes, the large black dog came back to life. With a bark, it hurriedly tried to get away from Chu Bei, but no matter how fast it reacted, it still couldn't escape from Chu Bei's evil clutches. Let me study you properly. Chu Bei shot a glance at the bloodthirsty palace. Genesis Heaven power erupted from his body, transforming into millions of rays of light that forcefully dragged the bloodthirsty palace and the large black dog into his small world. The host's last training has ended. Cultivation is recovering. 3 days later, Chu Bei appeared in Mu Shuer's room. Little martial uncle, aren't you leaving this time? Mu Shuer was taken aback when she saw Chu Bei. She sat on the bed and put down the needle and thread in her hand. Shuer, I thought about it and decided to stay with you for a few more days. Chu Bei sat on the bed and hugged Mu Shuer's waist from behind. Perhaps because of the happy day before, Mu Shuer wasn't frightened this time, but her face was still flushed with shyness. In the following days, Chu Bei was very happy. This happy time lasted until the 7th day. On this day, the top faction of the Xianhuang continent, the God-Sealing Pavilion, released a sensational piece of news. The content of the news was short and concise. When the Xianhuang continent was formed, a group of top experts went missing on the same day in pursuit of a higher level of Tao. Recently, in the ancestral hall of the God-Sealing Pavilion, there was an inexplicable piece of news about that group of top experts. In that era, they were known as the Transcendents. Any one of them was far more powerful than the strongest experts in the continent today. They were more than one level higher. The location of the Transcendents was at the end of the Xianhuang continent, in a boundless sea. Do you think the Transcendents really exist? The experts at the beginning of the Xianhuang continent. If they are still alive, How terrifying would they be now? We'll know whether it's true or not when we reach that sea. After the news was released by the God's Sealing Pavilion, all the superpowers in the Xianhuang continent flew toward the Pacific Sea at the end of the continent. The end of the continent? The boundless sea? After Chu Bei heard the news, he frowned slightly. Isn't that where the Watcher is? Could it be that the transcendents at the beginning of the Xianhuang continent are related to the Watcher? Swoosh! 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 More and more experts arrived at the sea mentioned by the God's Sealing Pavilion. Why is there nothing? Could it be that everything is fake? Looking at the empty seawater around them, the experts from the various forces frowned. At this moment, several figures in white robes appeared. The words God's Sealing Pavilion were printed on the back of their robes. The leader was a middle-aged man. He was the pavilion master of the God's Sealing Pavilion. Pavilion Master, is the source of your news reliable? Where are the transcendents? When the group of people from the God's Sealing Pavilion arrived, an expert immediately asked. The Pavilion Master of the God's Sealing Pavilion ignored the experts around him. Instead, he looked in a direction and his aura rose. In the next moment, under the gazes of countless experts, he clenched his fists and punched toward the sky. Boom! First, there was an earth-shattering sound. Apart from the void exploding, there was nothing unusual in the sky. However, just as the experts were puzzled, a dazzling divine light suddenly spewed out from the crack. Disturb my sleep. Die! Suddenly, a cold voice came from the crack. Then, a giant pitch-black palm reached out. The giant palm carried an incomparably terrifying aura and instantly appeared in front of the Pavilion Master of the God's Sealing Pavilion. Before the latter could react, the giant pitch-black palm had already grabbed the Pavilion Master of the God's Sealing Pavilion. Bang! With a low explosion, the Pavilion Master of the God's Sealing Pavilion didn't even have time to scream before his body and soul dissipated. After witnessing this scene, all the experts were stunned. It was as if they had lost their souls, and their faces were lifeless. The Pavilion Master of the God's Sealing Pavilion is dead! Dead! What exactly is that? It's too scary! The cultivators of the various forces gradually came to their senses. When they looked at the giant pitch-black palm that had reached out from the crack again, their faces were filled with fear. In particular, the other experts of the God's Sealing Pavilion looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Perhaps even the Pavilion Master of the God's Sealing Pavilion himself wouldn't have expected such an outcome. Suddenly, everything happened too suddenly. Chapter 782. Are a bunch of ants trying to leave this place? You really don't know what's good for you. Suddenly, the cold and emotionless voice came from the gap again. Then, a figure walked out from the gap. It was a man in a black robe. The moment he appeared, the seawater below churned and tornadoes shot up into the sky. The black-robed man looked down and swept his cold gaze across the experts of the various forces in the dark region. There was disdain between his brows. Who is he? Was he the one who killed the Pavilion Master of the Sealed God Pavilion? Could he be a transcendent being? No way! According to the news from the Sealed God Pavilion, the transcendent being is our ancestor. How could he kill him like this? Oh no! My power has been sealed. Me too. How could this be? It's just a gaze. The moment the experts met the black-robed man's gaze, their bodies suddenly trembled. As soon as they finished speaking, fear appeared on their faces. A terrifying power that was far more powerful than theirs shot out from the black-robed man's eyes. In an instant, it seeped into their bodies and sealed their divine power, causing them to be unable to move. Die! The black-robed man spat out a cold syllable. Then, the giant black palm moved. It carried a terrifying power fluctuation and blasted toward the imprisoned experts of the various forces below. Looking at the approaching giant black palm, regret began to appear in the experts' eyes. It was as if they regretted not daring to come forward. You're the most extreme watcher I've ever seen. You deserve to die. However, Just as the giant black palm was about to kill all the experts, an equally cold voice floated from afar. Then, a huge fist print came across the sky and smashed the giant black palm into pieces. "Who is it?" The black-robed man's eyes narrowed and he shouted. At the same time, a young man in a purple robe appeared. He was expressionless. "It's the sect master of the Purple Cloud sect. He's #1 on the heaven leaderboard, the strongest person in the continent. He's out of seclusion." Seeing the young man's appearance, the experts from the various forces were first stunned, then joy appeared on their faces. Chu Bei coldly looked at the black-robed man. Although the sentinels he had encountered before would also kill, they would only kill challengers, unlike this sentinel who would kill everyone. "You know of our existence?" The black-robed man frowned and looked at Chu Bei seriously. Chu Bei didn't reply. He just let out a cold snort and moved. As soon as he attacked, Chu Bei used his strongest killing move without holding back in the slightest. "Seventh Heaven Celestial King!" The black-robed man sensed Chu Bei's aura fluctuation, and his expression changed. Rumble! In an instant, Chu Bei and the black-robed man formed a terrifying battlefield in the sky. Looking at the two figures fighting on the battlefield, the experts from the various forces below were dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with astonishment. "Immortal King? What kind of realm is that?" The experts of the various forces looked at each other and mumbled to themselves, confusion in their eyes. The battle in the sky came quickly and ended quickly. From the beginning, the black-robed man was at a disadvantage, retreating step by step. Soon, a shrill cry of pain came from the battlefield. Then, under countless gazes, the black-robed man was blasted apart by Chu Bei. Looking at the black-robed man dissipating, the experts of the various forces were stunned for a moment, and then began to shout excitedly. "The Purple Cloud sect leader won!" However, at this moment, Chu Bei frowned. Because after he killed this sentinel, the system actually didn't give any indication. Suppressing the sentinel was usually one of the system's default missions. But now, the system didn't give any indication unless, boom! At this time, the gap that the black-robed man came out of continued to spread into the distance, and the area of the crack became larger and larger. That is... As the area of the crack increased, the experts below gradually saw the full picture of the crack. It was also at this moment that they were completely dazed, as if they were struck by lightning. Chu Bei was also shocked, but he soon calmed down. In that crack, there was an incomparably huge square. There were close to 100 pillars in the square, and a figure was tied to each pillar. The faces of these figures couldn't be seen clearly, as if their auras were incomparably weak because of the dark power on the pillars all year round. But even so, the power fluctuations faintly released by those thin figures were not something that the current top elites of the Black Wasteland continent could compare to. They were not on the same level at all. Quasi-celestial emperors, huh? With a single glance, Chu Bei was able to determine the cultivation bases of the figures who had been tortured and tied to the pillars. He could not help but feel a sense of astonishment in his heart. His previous judgment was wrong. The power system of this Black Wasteland continent was not weak, but the elites were all imprisoned. And the so-called Sentinel was not a fifth heaven celestial king. The black-robed man from before was perhaps just a gatekeeper. Who are those people? They are trapped by chains. How many secrets are there in this Black Wasteland continent that we don't know? Looking at the square in the pitch-black crack, those weak figures tied to the pillars by strange chains, the elites in the sea below were shocked. Are they also weak? Only one of them is passable, but he hasn't transcended. So what if he has transcended? In the end, won't he still be like us, tied here and become nourishment for others until his life force is exhausted? In the square, a thin figure tied to a pillar lowered his head and looked down. His gaze swept over the elites in the sea above, and he shook his head. Finally, when he looked at Chu Bei, a hint of surprise flashed in his lonely eyes. Transcendence? Could it be that they are the transcendence that the God Conferment Pavilion spread the news? But if they are transcendence, why would they become like this? tied to the pillars, they look like they are worse than death. Hearing the voices in the square, the elites in the sea above trembled, and their eyes suddenly narrowed. Just as they were wondering, a buzzing sound came from the depths of the crack. Then, at the end of the pitch-black crack, there was boundless darkness, and fog surged. A huge palace that seemed to have no end lay above the square, slowly approaching like a ship. Looking over, there were many buildings in the palace, grand and huge. It was unknown which epoch it had been built in, but it was majestic and intimidating. The moment it appeared, the black wasteland elites in the sea above the sea suddenly stopped the majestic power in their bodies. Their bodies trembled uncontrollably, and they couldn't help but want to submit and kowtow. The real sentinel? Chu Bei looked at the huge palace, and after feeling the terrifying aura it contained, he frowned, and his eyes became cold. He also felt the might of the palace in the crack. To the current him, it was also a suffocating mountain. Chapter 783. Half-Celestial Emperor Consummate Level. This was Chu Bei's judgment. It was you who killed fertile earth! At this moment, the palace trembled, and there was movement in the central palace. Suddenly, a voice rang out. It was ancient, weathered, and oppressive, causing the elites to feel a chill run down their spines. This voice was too frightening, as if a supreme emperor was questioning and looking down on them. It was enough to make all living beings in the world tremble, and their bodies and souls would be reduced to dust with a single thought from him. In the next instant, a stooped old man walked out of the palace, exuding an overwhelming might. He stared coldly at Chu Bei as if he were looking at an ant. In this prison, he had still been able to cultivate to the seventh heaven celestial king tier. Truly impressive. As the stooped old man's cold voice rang out, another mocking voice rang out from the palace. Then, two more old men appeared behind the stooped old man. They also exuded an incredibly frightening aura. Looking at these three old men, Chu Bei's heart stirred slightly. Coiling Dragon Realm and Shrouding Sky Realm only had one half-celestial Emperor Consummate level overseer, and there were actually three here. At this moment, a bound transcender in the plaza spoke weakly. They haven't transcended yet. Let them go. You don't have the right to speak about my matters. The stooped old man in front of the palace humphed coldly. As his cold and majestic voice rang out, an explosion suddenly rang out from the body of the transcender who had spoken before. Then, there was a shrill cry of pain, and his entire face twisted. Could it be that the reason why these transcending level experts ended up in such a miserable state was because of them? Who on earth are they? Also, was that person killed by the Purple Cloud sect leader one of them? The elites of the Black Wasteland continent above the sea looked at the transcender in the plaza with a twisted expression, and then recalled the killing intent that the black-robed man had directed at them. They all looked anxiously at the three old men in front of the palace, sinking into fear. A bunch of ants. They don't even have the right to be nourishment. The stooped old man's eyes were filled with disdain. Sensing the old man's terrifying aura, Chu Bei furrowed his brows. His current cultivation base had yet to fully recover, so he was unable to deal with a half-immortal emperor at the peak. The only way to resolve this crisis was to summon his personal disciple through the system. Rumble. Suddenly, the hunchbacked old man raised his right hand, and a destructive black beam of light condensed in his palm. No! Don't! In the end, I still can't escape death. Looking at the black beam of light above their heads, the experts of the Black Wasteland continent above the sea turned pale, and their eyes were filled with deep fear. Buzz, 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 however, just as the group of powerhouses were waiting for death with unwillingness and helplessness, a strange sound suddenly resounded. Then, they saw the space in front of Chu Bei distort. Then, a blue intersecting wheel slowly appeared. At the top of the wheel, the words, "Wheel of Time," were particularly conspicuous. Below it were the words, "Contractor." Looking closely, there was an azure passage in the wheel that was woven by the river of time. Look! What is that thing in front of the Purple Cloud sect master? I don't know, I've never seen it before. Could that azure passage be the gate of hell? Someone seems to be coming out from there. Above the sea, the eyes of the experts were attracted by the wheel of time in front of Chu Bei. The fear on their faces was replaced by confusion and confusion. Amidst the exclamations of these experts, a figure appeared in the azure passage. The figure stood with his hands behind his back, surrounded by the aura of an emperor. At first glance, it gave people a very contradictory feeling. They were clearly standing in the passage, but they felt that they were thousands of miles away. This was a young man who seemed to be in his 20s, and his body was surrounded by immortal mist. With a step, he walked out of the azure passage and stood in front of Chu Bei. There was not the slightest fluctuation of true martial qi on his body, but he was quietly suspended in the air as if he had merged with heaven and earth. He looked like an ordinary person, but he was like the ruler of heaven and earth. As his eyes swept around, an aura of superiority spread out, making people feel respect and want to kneel down and worship him. If you looked closely, you would find that there was a thread of flame between his eyebrows, which was very strange. This is Masters. Could it be? The man looked straight ahead and gently stroked the wheel of time. As he murmured, he seemed to have sensed something and turned his head abruptly. When he saw the person standing behind him clearly, the momentum of looking down on the world dissipated. Disciple Xiaoyan greets Master. The man immediately bowed deeply to Chu Bei. What? Master! This mysterious man actually called the Purple Cloud Sect Master. Why do I feel that this mysterious man's cultivation is higher than the Purple Cloud Sect Masters? What's that azure channel? Where does it lead to? When the experts of the dark region above the sea heard Xiaoyan's address, their expressions instantly froze, and their faces were filled with disbelief. It's him again! Last time in the sect, I was lucky enough to see the sect master invite him out. Yes, but compared with last time, his strength seems to be more terrifying. When the experts of the Purple Cloud sect saw Xiaoyan, their expressions also changed greatly. Not long ago, they had seen Chu Bei summon Xiaoyan. Rumble. At this moment, the black beam of the stooped old man in front of the hall had fallen straight down. The terrible aura of destruction burst out in an instant, frightening people's souls, as if it was going to destroy everything in the world into nothingness. However, when the black beam was about to destroy all the creatures below, Xiaoyan, who was in front of Chu Bei, raised his eyes and looked at the black beam indifferently. His expression did not change at all, and he calmly stretched out his palm to meet it. Bang! A low explosion sounded. The two terrifying forces intertwined as if they had blended into another small world. There was an explosion, and the Emperor's aura filled the air until it disappeared. Immortal Emperor! How is it possible? A person who hasn't transcended has taught an immortal Emperor. That azure passage is flowing in the long river of time. He's not from this space-time. Seeing Xiaoyan make a move, the bound Nirvana-level experts on the plaza were all startled. How is it possible? The stooped old man looked at Xiaoyan, and fear flashed in his eyes. However, the moment the stooped old man's voice fell, the three of them seemed to have noticed something. All of them looked at the azure passage with a swish, and then their faces became more and more gloomy. The space-time wheel rotated, and a new figure walked out from it. This was a man in a long robe with exquisite facial features, and he had a cold and handsome face. He stepped out of the space-time wheel. For a moment, his body suddenly became bright and dazzling, as if he had lost his original body and was composed of countless light atoms. Chapter 784. As soon as the long-robed man stepped out of the space-time wheel, he was stunned, just like Xiaoyan. Then, he seemed to have sensed something and immediately turned to look at Chu Bei. Suddenly, his aura fluctuated. The light atoms around him seemed to have turned into naughty children, constantly evolving into various things. There were ancient divine beasts, ancient celestial weapons, and jade pavilions. Disciple Chen Nan greets Master. After calming down, the long-robed man quickly restrained his aura and bowed respectfully to Chu Bei. Another celestial emperor! Sensing the celestial emperor's aura that Chen Nan had inadvertently released, the transcendents in the square exclaimed again. They looked at each other with disbelief in their eyes. In front of the palace, the three overseers frowned. Their gazes were fixed on Chen Nan, and their expressions became more and more solemn. Buzz! Suddenly, the space-time wheel rotated again, and another blurry figure appeared. He was holding a gorgeous trident, and there were various mysterious metals floating around his body. Behind him, a gray energy could be vaguely seen surging. When the blurry figure walked out of the space-time wheel, his appearance gradually became clearer. Like Xiao Yan and Chen Nan, he was stunned for a moment. Then, he turned around and bowed to Chu Bei. "Disciple Tang San pays his respects to Master." His respectful shout resounded like rolling thunder in this part of the world. Chu Bei nodded slightly and responded with a soft sound. "Another one!" Before the exclamations of the powerhouses had even subsided, another figure appeared in the azure passageway. His body was surrounded by lightning. Black, purple, green, and other thunderbolts of various colors were everywhere. Some of the thunderbolts even evolved into the appearance of mysterious giant beasts. He was like the ruler of thunderbolts. Just by looking at him, one could not help but kowtow in worship. "Disciple Yi Fan greets Master." After Yi Fan, another figure walked out of the space-time wheel. He also released the aura of a celestial emperor. "Disciple Shi Hao greets Master." As the figure took a step forward, white light filled the surroundings. It extended in the void like a spider web, causing cracks to appear and then heal. The cycle repeated itself. It was a terrifying tremor. "Senior brother, you also came!" After Shi Hao bowed towards Chu Bei, he then looked towards Yi Fan, greeting him. Buzz buzz buzz, after Shi Hao, the wheel of time moved again. This time, 5 figures actually directly appeared in the blue passage. There were monkeys with sharp mouths, and pigmen with fat heads and big ears. "Disciple Wukong pays respect to Master." "Disciple Ba Jia pays his respects to Master." "Disciple Monk Sha pays respect to Master." "Disciple Jin Chan greets Master." "Disciple Ao Lai greets Master." 5 orderly yet slightly different voices came from the mouths of the 5 figures, carrying with them the aura of emperors that reverberated throughout the world. Then 3 more figures walked out of the Wheel of Time. Disciple Linli greets Master. Disciple Luo Feng greets Teacher. Disciple Jun Mo Xie greets Master. Seeing Chu Bei, the 2 figures quickly calmed down from the excitement of the soaring aura and bowed respectfully. The former's vision had a golden dragon swimming about. It had 4 pairs of dragon horns, and behind its huge body, there were billions of dragon creatures worshipping it. The second person's vision was like an endless huge black hole with an incomparably terrifying suction force that seemed to be able to devour everything. Finally, the Wheel of Time stopped moving and became quiet. At this moment, Xiao Yan, Chen Nan, Tang San, Yi Fan, Shi Hao, Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, Monk Sha, Golden Cicada, Ao Lai, Linli, Luo Feng, and Zhu Nemo Xie, a total of 13 figures stood side by side in front of Chu Bei with respectful expressions. A total of 13. Are they all the disciples of the leader of the Purple Cloud sect? What is going on? As far as I know, the leader of the Purple Cloud sect is not even 30 years old. How can he have so many disciples? Half a year ago, he was still a useless young master. But in this half a year, everything that happened to him is too unbelievable. First, he became the leader of the Purple Cloud sect, then he became the number 1 on the heaven list and the strongest person in the Xianhuang continent. And now, 12 disciples who are even more powerful than him have appeared. Above the ocean, the group of strong people from the Xianhuang continent looked at Chu Bei in a daze. When they recalled the things that happened to him in the past half a year, they could not help but gasp. Immortal emperors, they are all immortal emperors. It might be a coincidence that he taught 1, but to be able to teach 13 immortal emperors, he is definitely not as simple as he looks on the surface. Their auras of origin are similar. They are indeed from the same sect. They come from different time and space, but they are gathered here. They are not affected by karma. What is that azure passage? It is too terrifying. The restrained transcendents in the square first looked at Xiao Yan, Yi Fan, and the rest of the 13 people, and then looked at Chu Bei and the space-time wheel. They were all dumbfounded, and their faces were filled with disbelief. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed that a person who had not yet transcended could cultivate 13 immortal emperors. 13 immortal emperors. Impossible. Even the top emperor-level forces in the 9 strongest regions have very few 13 immortal emperors. How could they appear in the Xianwang continent? Sensing the auras of Xiao Yan and the rest, the 3 sentinels in front of the palace turned gray in an instant. They looked like ordinary people who had been struck by rolling thunder, and their expressions were numb. The appearance of Xiao Yan, Chen Nan, and the rest was too sudden, and they were a little at a loss. Chu Bei stared at the 3 sentinels, and the corners of his mouth suddenly curled up into a mocking smile. Can you handle these 13 disciples of mine? Hearing Chu Bei's words, the 3 overseers glanced at Xiao Yan, Chen Nan, and the 13 others. Their gazes suddenly became alert. Their entire bodies were as tense as a rock, and their hearts also sank to the point where it was as though they were filled with cold lead. 13 immortal emperors! Not to mention their cultivation level, just the number of immortal emperors was enough to crush them. Suppress them for me. Chu Bei's gaze swept across Xiao Yan, Chen Nan, Yi Fan, and the rest of the 13 people in succession, and his calm voice came out of his mouth. Yes, master! Xiao Yan, Chen Nan, and the rest of the 13 people responded in unison. In the next moment, 13 figures instantly appeared in the gap, and without any explanation, they directly charged toward the 3 elders with monstrous killing intent. The battle ended very quickly. It could be said that it happened in an instant. The 3 sentinels' roars of hatred could be heard from the battlefield. Their lives had come to an end. Boom! Accompanied by a loud bang, the river of time behind the 3 sentinels collapsed, and their auras were annihilated. They had truly died. Chapter 785. At the same time, the palace collapsed, the plaza, the pillars, and the chains shattered and turned into a rain of light. The transcendents were also freed from their bindings due to the deaths of the 3 guardians. I didn't expect that we would regain our freedom one day, the transcendents mumbled to themselves as they looked at each other. Then, they all looked at Xiao Yan, Yi Fan, and the others. Finally, their gazes landed on Chu Bei. They wanted to say something, but they hesitated. Their faces were filled with gratitude. They're dead! Those 3 old fogies are all dead! That means we're safe! That's great! At this moment, the powerhouses above the sea regained their senses. Their faces were filled with excitement. Buzz, at this moment, a dazzling golden path appeared in the pitch-black gap and extended into the distance. What's that? Where does it lead to? The appearance of the golden path caused the powerhouses above the sea to cry out in surprise. When the extremely weak transcendents saw the golden path, their thin bodies began to tremble. They were extremely excited. Your cultivation is sufficient. Go there and seek a higher level of Tao. If there's nowhere to go, go to the Wu Gate Emperor province in the high heavens. Chu Bei looked at the transcendents and said calmly, Many thanks! The transcendents looked at each other, then cupped their fists at Chu Bei. From his words, they were even more certain that he was not as simple as he seemed. At the very least, they were certain that he was not from the profound wilderness. He was from the other end of the golden path. Where is the other end of the golden path? It's so attractive to the transcendents. Are we the only ones qualified to step onto the golden path after becoming a transcendent? Looking at the transcendents disappearing one after another on the other side of the golden path, the experts of the black wasteland continent above the sea revealed looks of yearning. Rumble, 13 divine rainbows streaked across the sky and returned to Chu Bei. Master! Xiao Yan, Chen Nan, and Yi Fan spoke at the same time. The host's summoning time is up. The contractor will be sent back. At this moment, the system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's mind. It's time for me to send you back. When he heard the system's voice, Chu Bei waved his sleeves and the spacetime wheel started to rotate. Soon after, an azure blue glow that one could not resist covered Xiao Yin, Yi Fan, and the rest of the 13 people. As expected of Master! He has mastered such a heaven-defying technique! Xiao Yin, Yi Fan and the rest sighed in their hearts as they sensed the terrifying power that enveloped their bodies. Their gazes towards Chu Bei were filled with admiration. Whoosh! The 13 blue lights were absorbed into the space-time wheel. Xiao Yin, Yi Fan, and the others disappeared, and so did the space-time wheel. Gradually, everything returned to normal. Only the group of powerhouses above the sea was left. Disperse! Chu Bei's calm voice rang out as he swept his gaze across the crowd. The group of experts from the dark wasteland continent were stunned when they heard this. Then, they looked at each other and communicated with their eyes before they cupped their fists towards Chu Bei and left. After experiencing the previous scene, they fully understood how terrifying the Purple Cloud Sect Master was. He wasn't the Purple Cloud Sect Master who was only in his 20s on the surface, but an old monster who had lived for countless years. The host is about to leave the trial plane. The system will assist the host in the final baptism of Source Heaven Force. The system's voice rang out. Little Martial Uncle, are you leaving again? Mu Shuer, who was nearby, seemed to have sensed something and couldn't help but ask. Martial Uncle will be back soon. Chu Bei appeared beside Mu Shuer and stroked the hair on her forehead. After speaking, Chu Bei entered the Source Heaven space again. Unlike before, when Chu Bei entered the Source Heaven space, thousands of rivers of Source Heaven force rushed towards him and drowned him. Under the infusion of the river-like Source Heaven force, Chu Bei quickly entered a mysterious state. Finally, he slowly closed his eyes and his consciousness dissipated. Countless years had passed since Chu Bei fell into a deep sleep. Xianhuang Continent, Purple Cloud Sect. In the main hall of the Purple Cloud Sect sat a middle-aged man in a white robe, and on both sides of him sat 16 people. How is Ancestor Shuer? The middle-aged man in the main seat was called Bai Qing, and he was the 109th sect master of the Purple Cloud Sect. He had been separated from Chu Bei's generation by a full 100 generations. She passed away just now. A man stood up, his eyes filled with sadness. In the end, she didn't make it. Bai Qing sighed. Sect Master, you've done your best. Ancestor Shuer is just a mortal, and with the help of the previous sect masters, she has already lived for thousands of years. This is her limit. Another man stood up from his seat. Those former sect masters who have gone to a higher world, they won't be able to come back? Why did they have the heart to let Ancestor Shuer continue to wait until she passed away? Bai Qing sighed. Purple Yunshan Peak. It was unknown how many years ago, a separate area had been opened up here. As far as the eye could see, the trees were emitting a blue light, which was very eye-catching. As they approached, a cool breeze hit them in the face. These trees were called acacia trees. No one knew which sect master planted them for the people in the forest. The leaves had a blue light, and purple clouds flowed, emitting wisps of coldness. In the forest, some female disciples of the sect could be seen picking acacia fruits. Usually, they would have a smile on their faces and talk about cultivation. But today, their faces were incomparably solemn. From time to time, they would look into the depths of the forest, and could not help but tear up. In the quiet acacia forest, there were 2 simple courtyards connected by blue light. At this moment, in one of the courtyards, a woman in a purple dress sat on a chair, facing the direction of the other courtyard. Judging from her appearance, she was only 17 or 18 years old. Her eyes were closed, and there was a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. Her body was cold, and there were no signs of life. She was peaceful and quiet. This young woman was naturally Mu Shuer. Years had passed, and the river of time had flowed. In this courtyard, she had always been waiting for one person. Because she had taken an elixir, she had eternal youth. Unfortunately, she had not stepped into the ranks of cultivation, and her lifespan was only 100 years. 1,000 years ago, she should have died of natural causes. But because the previous sect master used his divine power to extend her life, she lived for another 100 years. Later, every sect master of the Purple Cloud sect would extend Mu Shuer's life. But in the end, she was only a mortal. Until recently, her time had come, and it was difficult to extend her life. I feel an inexplicable pity for Ancestor Shuer. She waited 1,000 years, and the 9th sect master did not come. Chapter 786. Do you think Sect Master Chu has forgotten about Ancestor Shuer? Shh! Don't talk nonsense! Without the 9th Sect Master, there would be no Purple Cloud Sect today. Don't forget, he is the benefactor of the entire continent. In the lovesick forest, a group of female disciples discussed in low voices. While the disciples were chatting, the Purple Cloud Sect's higher-ups, led by Bai Qing, arrived outside the courtyard. They first kowtowed devoutly, then used the Purple Cloud Sect's highest etiquette to announce Mu Shuer's departure. Countless years passed. Chaos' great domain, all heaven's shop. A ripple appeared in the void as a figure slowly emerged and opened his eyes. Almost at the same time, several figures sensed his presence and appeared above the all heaven's shop. Master! Uniform voices resounded in the sky. Xiao Yan, Chen Nan, Yi Fan, and the others respectfully knelt in front of the figure. She's already here. Chu Bei's gaze swept across the surroundings as he muttered to himself. He had just finished cleansing his body with the Genesis Heaven Force when he opened his eyes. Xiao Yan seemed to have sensed something and hurriedly asked, Master, you just came back. Are you going out again? I'm going to bring your master's wife here, replied Chu Bei. Master's wife? Master, when did you have a cultivation partner? Where is Master's wife? Could it be that she is also an immortal emperor who has transcended the 9 stars like you? Xiao Yan, Chen Nan, and the others' jaws dropped in shock when they heard Chu Bei say the words Master's wife. Chu Bei smiled knowingly when he saw the shocked expressions of his personal disciples. You will see her soon. The purple robe I'm wearing was personally sewn by her. Speaking of this, the image of Mu Shuer sitting on the bed holding a needle and thread surfaced in Chu Bei's mind. The corners of his mouth unconsciously curved upwards. Master, you should have told us about this earlier. Tang San and the others sighed. I'll leave the all heaven shop to you. Master will go fetch your master's wife, said Chu Bei with a smile. Ripples appeared beneath his feet and he disappeared. Dark wasteland continent, Purple Cloud Sect. Look at the sky. Who is that? He looks so familiar, as if I've seen him before. Don't you think he looks like the 9th sect master? In the Purple Cloud sect, a group of disciples who had just finished cultivating and were resting looked at the purple-robed man who had appeared above their heads and exclaimed. After 3,000 years of development, the Purple Cloud sect had become the #1 sect in the dark wilderness. Among all the sect lords of the Purple Cloud sect, the one with the greatest influence was none other than the 9th sect lord. He was the one who created the golden age of the Purple Cloud sect, and he was also the savior of the entire dark wasteland continent. Whoosh! Whoosh! Just as the disciples were discussing the figure in the sky, several streaks of light flew out from the violet cloud hall. They appeared before the purple-robed man in the blink of an eye. In the next moment, these powerful existences knelt down to the purple-robed man at the same time. Greetings, Patriarch! The group of figures shouted in unison with an extremely respectful expression. The leader was a middle-aged man in a white robe. That's the sect lord and the first elder. Oh, Patriarch! Oh my God! That person is really the 9th sect lord. I knew it! How could there be two people who look so similar in the world? In the square, the disciples of the Purple Cloud sect reacted and immediately kowtowed to Chu Bei, their faces full of admiration. Shuer's aura has disappeared. After Chu Bei probed with his divine thought, his heart sank and his face darkened. Patriarch Shuer, she passed away 2,000 years ago. The middle-aged man in a gray robe looked at Chu Bei with great anxiety. He took a deep breath and replied nervously. His name was Li Rua, and he was the 403rd sect lord of the Purple Cloud sect. Chu Bei seemed to have already known the answer. He glanced at Li Rua and the elders behind him and ignored them. He directly appeared at the peak of Yunshan. "Let's go, follow him!" Li Rua and the elders looked at each other, and immediately followed behind Chu Bei. What a change! Chu Bei walked slowly on the path and murmured softly. After countless years, this was no longer the mountain peak he was familiar with. As far as the eye could see, thousands of trees were emitting an azure light, bringing with them a wave of refreshing coolness. Chu Bei glanced at the trees on both sides and muttered to himself, as if he had lost his soul. He recognized these trees at a glance. The leaves had a blue light, and purple clouds flowed with a chill. It was the acacia tree. "Schwer, I'm late." Chu Bei finally arrived in front of a familiar courtyard. The two courtyards were closely connected. It was his and Mu Schwer's courtyard. Chu Bei opened his right hand, and his palm faced Mu Schwer's courtyard. Boom! Accompanied by a loud noise, Chu Bei's palm shot out a dazzling rainbow that enveloped Mu Schwer's courtyard. In the next moment, amidst the soul-stirring ruins of the Great Tao, dense spots of light came from all directions and gathered above the courtyard. Gradually, these dots of light converged to form a beautiful woman with a graceful figure. Look! It's Ancestor Schwer! The 9th sect lord used a supreme technique to revive Ancestor Schwer! Great! Ancestor Schwer didn't wait for 1,000 years in vain! Looking at the woman above the courtyard, Li Rua and the others were excited and happy. However, as soon as their excited voices fell, the woman exploded into countless dense specks of light with a bang and disappeared into the void. No, it's impossible! This time, Chu Bei's expression was one of genuine fear. He had failed. With his current strength, he had failed to revive someone. When he had just returned to the dark region, he had sensed that Mu Schwer's aura had disappeared. At that time, he already had a guess. However, with his current cultivation, he was very confident that he could revive the dead Mu Schwer. What scared him the most was that he had failed to revive Mu Schwer. Chu Bei came back to his senses and took a deep breath to calm himself down. After that, he once again shot out a dazzling rainbow. Mu Schwer's figure formed above the courtyard again. However, not long after, she turned into dense light spots and disappeared. Chu Bei couldn't accept this result and tried again. However, no matter how many times Chu Bei tried, the result was always failure. Even the 9th sect lord couldn't revive Ancestor Schwer? Li Rua and the others were originally happy, but after witnessing the same result over and over again, their expressions turned grave. How could this be? Why did I fail? At this time, Chu Bei had completely lost his mind and was like a completely different person. Ah! Chu Bei let out a painful roar. At some point in time, his eyes had turned the color of blood. Around him, the river of time surged, and scenes appeared in the splashes of water. Chapter 787. In the first scene, a dispirited young man was lying on a chair, staring blankly at the sky and sighing from time to time. A young girl wearing a purple dress walked over with a tray of steaming hot food in her hands. She kept calling out "Little Marshal, Uncle." This was the scene when Chu Bei first came to the Xianwang continent. In the second scene, the sun was setting in the west. A young man walked into the courtyard next door with a beautiful dress in his hand. The dress was sky blue and as thin as a cicada's wing. Although it didn't have any fancy decorations, it was exquisite and noble. It was refreshing and natural. Most importantly, the dress emitted a faint light that was faintly discernible and very strange. In the courtyard, the young girl in purple happily took the sky blue dress from the young man. When she put it on, her beauty was indescribable. This was the scene when Chu Bei used Source Heaven energy to create a dress and gave it to Mu Schwer. In the third scene, a young girl in a blue dress sat by the bed, holding a purple robe in her hand and giggling from time to time. The door opened and a young man walked in. The young girl was obviously flustered and then shyly stuffed the purple robe into the young man's hands. This was the scene when Chu Bei took the robe that Mu Shuer made herself. In the fourth scene, Chu Bei returned from a mission and appeared in Mu Shuer's room at night. That night was also a night that Chu Bei would never forget. It was the happiest time of his life. The river of time surged, recording the scenes of Chu Bei and Mu Shuer. Chu Bei was still trying, but the result was still the same. The resurrection failed again and again. Don't have any hope. It won't work. At this time, the system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's mind. Why? Why did it fail? What went wrong? Hearing the system's voice, Chu Bei seemed to have grasped at a life-saving straw and found a ray of light in the darkness. You can see if those guys from the Tianluo clan can be of help. The system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's mind. Chu Bei was stunned at first, but when he reacted, he immediately opened up a new world. At the same time, a dazzling golden space enveloped him. This domain was filled with golden water, containing an incomparably terrifying Genesis Heaven aura. In the Genesis Heaven domain, the 2 9-stars immortal emperors of the Tianluo clan were so weak that they couldn't even gather Genesis Heaven power. When the 2 celestial emperors from the Tianluo clan saw Chu Bei again, their eyes were filled with killing intent. Your Tianluo clan controls reincarnation. I need your help to revive someone. Chu Bei's voice was cold as he sent 2 strands of divine sense related to Mu Shuer into the 2 immortal emperors' knowledge seas. Hearing Chu Bei's words, Tianluo and Tianluo glanced at each other with a hint of joy in their eyes. We can revive her, but you have to let us go after reviving her, said the 2 immortal emperors. I don't have time for you to bargain. If the revival succeeds, I'll spare your lives. If the revival fails, your spirit will be destroyed. Chu Bei's voice was cold as he raised his hand and pointed. Ah! The Genesis Heaven power in the Genesis Heaven domain squeezed the 2 immortal emperors' bodies, causing them to scream miserably. The 2 immortal emperors' auras were intermittent. They didn't expect the woman to be so important to the other party. They didn't even have time to bargain. Stop! We'll help you revive her, shouted the 2 immortal emperors. Chu Bei's face was expressionless as he coldly glanced at the 2 immortal emperors. With a wave of his right hand, the rampaging Genesis Heaven power in the Genesis Heaven domain instantly calmed down. The 2 immortal emperors joined their palms together as divine light blossomed from their bodies. Strange runes flew out from their bodies one after another. Bzz bzz bzz. Amidst the buzzing sounds, the strange runes formed an arch bridge in the Genesis Heaven domain. Countless specks of light slowly crossed the bridge. This is the reincarnation bridge. Every speck of light that crosses the bridge is a living being. They are entering the cycle of reincarnation. The system's calm voice sounded in Chu Bei's knowledge sea. The 2 immortal emperors were using their arts to control the river of time according to Chu Bei's memories to search for their target. Gradually, the 2 immortal emperors' expressions turned ugly, and their frowns deepened. What's going on? Chu Bei seemed to have noticed something, and the Genesis Heaven power in the Genesis Heaven domain showed signs of going berserk again. The woman you want us to find hasn't entered the cycle of reincarnation. We've extended the time you gave us by 1,000 years, but we still can't find her. If she doesn't enter the reincarnation bridge, how can we revive her? The 2 immortal emperors exchanged a look, then looked at Chu Bei and said seriously. Hasn't entered the cycle of reincarnation? You mean you also can't revive her? Chu Bei's eyes narrowed, and his voice was filled with intense killing intent. As I thought, she originally had a mortal body and hadn't entered the path of cultivation, but her life was forcefully extended for 1,000 years. In addition, she has been dead for too long, so her spirit dissipated before she entered the reincarnation bridge. The system's voice sighed faintly. The person you want to revive had her spirit dissipated before she entered the reincarnation bridge. Even if our Tianluo clan controls the reincarnation bridge, we can't revive such a dead person, the 2 immortal emperors of the Tianluo clan said. Then do you remember what I said before? Chu Bei could no longer conceal the killing intent in his eyes. The two 9-stars immortal emperors of the Tianluo clan shuddered, but before they could resist, the Genesis Heaven power in the Genesis Heaven domain compressed to the limit and frantically eroded their bodies and spirits. Anyone related to you will never enter the reincarnation bridge. 2 explosions sounded in the Genesis Heaven domain. The bodies and spirits of the 2 immortal emperors of the Tianluo clan exploded at the same time. In addition, the other party's shouts filled with monstrous hatred could be heard. If it were in the world battlefield or the great domains of the Chaos Heavens, the explosion of 2 9-stars immortal emperors' spirits would most likely annihilate several great domains. However, in the Genesis Heaven domain, the energy produced by the explosion only caused a few ripples. After killing the 2 9-stars immortal emperors of the Tianluo clan, Chu Bei looked at the 2 courtyards on the purple Yunshan peak below. His expression became absent-minded again, and he looked like a walking corpse. If the reincarnation bridge doesn't work, you can try the underworld gate. Just as Chu Bei arrived at Mu Shuer's courtyard and sat on a stone bench in a daze, the system's voice rang in Chu Bei's knowledge sea again. When he heard the voice, Chu Bei's empty eyes lit up with hope again. Chapter 788. What is the Netherworld Gate, and where is it? Chu Bei immediately asked the system. Among the ancient clans, the Tianluo clan controls the Reincarnation Bridge, while the 9 Netherworld clan controls the Netherworld Gate. After a person dies, his soul does not disperse into the Reincarnation Bridge, but disperses into the Netherworld. However, stepping onto the Reincarnation Bridge is a different way of living. Perhaps one day, one can still recover the memories of his previous life. After entering the Netherworld Gate, the dispersing soul merely finds a place to purify itself. The system's voice was calm. As for whether she is there, we will only know after entering the Netherworld Gate. Where is this gate? Just as Chu Bei could not wait to ask, there was a loud boom, and a colorful circular passageway that led to an unknown place appeared in front of him. Chu Bei did not hesitate at all and stepped into the passageway directly. With a step, Chu Bei arrived at the end of the passageway. At the end of the passageway was an incomparably huge pitch-black gate. The surroundings of the gate were chaotic, and nothing could be seen clearly. The only thing that could be vaguely seen was that behind the pitch-black gate, there seemed to be a mysterious staircase that extended even higher. Looking at the pitch-black gate quietly, the surface of the gate flickered with all kinds of complicated and profound runes, and all kinds of indecipherable pictures of great ferocious beasts were engraved on it. On both sides of the gate, there was a long river of time flowing, and it was extremely demonic. The most eye-catching thing was the 2 words, Netherworld, above the 2 gates. Just one look at it would make one's heart palpitate inexplicably. At this moment, Chu Bei stood in front of the pitch-black gate, and he actually seemed a little small, like an ordinary person facing a towering mountain. The moment Chu Bei arrived in front of the pitch-black gate, all the cultivators and experts in the chaotic heavens, including the various great immortal emperors, looked at the distant vault of heaven. Suddenly, a loud boom that shook the entire chaotic heavens rang out, and then an incomparably huge image took shape. In the image, a mysterious and strange pitch-black gate stood in a turbid space. In front of the gate, a figure in a purple robe had his back to them. Where is that gate? Why do I have a feeling of fear? Looking at it, it's as if I'm facing death. An expert from the great domain of primal chaos said. The Netherworld sect of the 9 Netherworld clan. In a large region in the northwest, immortal Emperor Hengsu disappeared from the peak of a sacred mountain shrouded in immortal mist and surrounded by galaxies. In the blink of an eye, her figure appeared in the distant starry sky. She occupied a part of the void, her clothes fluttering in the wind as she looked at the scene above with an incomparably serious expression. Her agile eyes seemed to have not been baptized by the world, and endless great doubts interweaved in her eyes. Could it be that the 9 Netherbird clan is the same as the Tianluo clan? Did they not perish? Immortal Emperor Hengsu muttered softly. His gaze seemed to be able to penetrate through a myriad of regions and comprehend all karma. His exquisite and flawless features were outlined with a solemn expression. A familiar figure! The owner of all heaven's business! In a certain large region in the southeast, there was a barren land devoid of life. There were only a few fallen leaves on the grayish-brown earth, cold and lonely. Desolation and emptiness coexisted. There were a few huge rocks scattered on the ground. At first glance, they looked like tombstones. The sky was dim, and the faint black fog added a gloomy feeling to this barren land. It was distant and deathly silent, without any signs of life. In the depths of the boundless earth, immortal Emperor Xian Yuan soared into the sky, and a distant and faint sound echoed from where he was. In a certain large region in the far north, there was a boundless blood-red sea. It seemed to be the convergence of the blood of a supreme expert after his death, and it carried a pungent smell. Amidst the soul-stirring sound, a loud bang suddenly rang out from the blood-red sea. The surface of the sea seemed to have been sliced into two by a giant sword, and a terrifying aura that surpassed that of an 8-star immortal emperor seeped out, traversing the past, present, and future. It's said that the 9 underworld gate can summon dissipated spirits. Could the owner of all heaven's business be trying to revive someone? Immortal Emperor Gui Yuan came to the surface of the sea from the depths of the sea, and his cold eyes looked at the scene in the sky. Eternity shook, and the long river of time collapsed. Such a huge commotion again! Fellow Taoist Chu is really worrisome. But this is good. With him taking action, we might be able to find out the origins of those hidden extraordinary factions. In the Origin Sky Pavilion, Emperor Yuan had his hands behind his back as he stared at the huge scene in the sky. But who is he trying to revive? At this moment, many immortal emperors in the great regions of the primal chaos spoke out, communicating with their divine wills. All Heaven's Business, Emperor Province. In All Heaven's Business, Xiaoyan, Chen Nan Yi Fan, and the others clearly recognized Zhu Bei in front of the Netherworld Gate. They looked at each other in dismay, their eyes filled with confusion. Didn't Master go to fetch Master's wife? Why did he appear in front of that gate again? Shihao frowned, and then he looked at the ancient dragon phoenix. Do you know the origins of this gate? What is Master trying to do? The ancient dragon phoenix's expression was grave. Among the ancient races, the Tianluo race controls reincarnation. As long as a creature dies normally, their souls will not be extinguished, and they will step onto the reincarnation bridge, walking on the path of reincarnation. However, if the soul disperses, they will not be able to enter the reincarnation bridge again. As for where the dissipated soul will go, it will be through the Netherworld Gate. Then Master appeared in front of the Netherworld Gate. Could it be that he is looking for the dissipated soul? Before Master left, he said that he was going to fetch Master's wife, but now he is in front of the Netherworld Gate. Could it be that the person whose soul has dissipated is? After Xiaoyan, Shihao, and the others had their guesses, their expressions immediately changed greatly, becoming incomparably ugly. However, according to what I know, these dissipated souls will enter a purified land after entering the Netherworld Gate. As time passes, they will truly die for eternity. The ancient dragon phoenix's voice was low. If Lord Sect Master wants to revive a person whose soul has dissipated, I'm afraid it won't be an easy task. Hearing the ancient dragon phoenix's words, Yi Fan, Shihao, and the others' expressions became even uglier. They silently looked at the scene in the sky. At this moment, Zhu Bei expressionlessly stared at the incomparably enormous Netherworld Gate in front of him. Hong Long! Zhu Bei punched out. The fist that seemed insignificant in front of the Netherworld Gate directly blasted open the gate. Inside the gate, dazzling divine light shone out. One could see the dense specks of light drifting about inside. After blasting open the gate, Zhu Bei directly stepped onto the heavenly staircase behind the Netherworld Gate. Every time Zhu Bei stepped onto a step, the primal chaos around the staircase would dissipate, and the surrounding scene would also appear. They were all the same dense white specks of light. The Netherworld Heavenly Staircase has a total of 99 steps. It is rumored that in the ancient era, only immortal emperors could ascend the staircase. Has anyone ever climbed the heavenly staircase? All of the records before that calamity have been broken. What was passed down are only bits and pieces. Who knows? In the great regions of primal chaos, all of the immortal emperor's eyes were focused on Chu Bei's figure in the sky. Chapter 789. At the same time, in a mysterious world. There were a total of 36 doors in this world, and one of the doors had the words Ninth Hell imprinted on it. After entering this door, one would notice to their shock that it was actually so vast that it wasn't inferior to the heavens. However, compared to the heavens, there were obviously much fewer people here. Moreover, it wasn't distributed in Emperor region, and it was filled with floating islands. On these immortal islands, there were many towering pavilions. An exceptionally grand hall stood towering on the island at the center, and it was surrounded by clouds and mist, causing it to seem majestic and grand. If one observed it carefully, one would notice that there was actually a layer of white mist on the surface of the hall, and as the mist surged, it gave one the feeling as if one's body and soul were being purified at the same time. Outside the hall, numerous groups of figures were spread out all over the place, and they swept back and forth like an inescapable net. Based on their auras, the weakest amongst them had actually stepped into the 9th level of the immortal king realm. At this moment, there were almost 50 figures in the hall, and every single one of them emanated a strand of formidable emperor might. The weakest amongst them was actually at the 1st or 3rd level of the emperor realm. Since our clan lived in seclusion in the origin world, no one has ever forcefully opened the netherworld gate, right? A gray-robed middle-aged man sat upright at the seat of the host, and his gaze swept past everyone in the hall as he spoke with a calm voice. There was a scene before him, and it was the scene of Chu Bei walking on the netherworld heaven stairway. "He's the first," someone replied. "Logically speaking, after that calamity, no one should know how to summon the netherworld gate." "How did he know?" The gray-robed middle-aged man at the seat of the host spoke once more. "We don't know," the other experts in the hall replied. "Then do all of you know his origins?" the gray-robed middle-aged man asked. "Since we lived in seclusion in the origin world, we've never left, so how would we know him?" "Now let's see how far he can ascend," replied an expert. The gray-robed middle-aged man didn't speak further, and his gaze returned to the scene once more, and it was fixed on Chu Bei. "He actually stepped foot onto the 70th step. He's stepped into the 7th star of the immortal king realm." After a short while, an expert in the hall exclaimed with surprise. The netherworld heavenly stairway had a total of 99 steps. When one reached the last step, the so-called Pure Land would be in sight. At this moment, it wasn't just the members of the origin world's 9th hell, all the experts from the chaotic universe were staring fixedly at the scene in the starry sky. On the stairway to heaven, although Chu Bei's pace was slow, it was extremely stable. From beginning to end, every step took the same amount of time, and the frequency was also the same. Bang! Chu Bei lifted his foot again and stepped onto the 90th step. "Realm of 9 stars! How is that possible? When did another realm of 9 stars appear in the grand celestial domains? According to my knowledge, there's only Yuan, Xian Yuan, Ge Yuan, and Heng Xiu." When they saw Chu Bei step onto the 90th step, the group of 9 nether experts in the 9 nether Great Hall were shocked and incredulous. Chu Bei didn't know that he had become the focus of attention in the great domain of chaos. He was still walking up the sky stairway. 91, 92, 92. When he stepped onto the 98th step, his body paused slightly as if he felt the pressure, but it was only for a moment. In the end, a golden space enveloped him, and after stepping onto the 98th step, he took the opportunity to step onto the last step. Buzz! Buzz! Almost at the same time, the netherworld stairway let out a strange roar, and then it emitted a dazzling divine light. In the 9 nether Great Hall, the group of experts looked at each other, and were all stunned. "Yuan sky space! D air! Finally, an expert came back to his senses and exclaimed, "Clan leader, he reached the top! According to the clan rules, shouldn't we?" Before a Nine Nether expert in the hall could finish his sentence, the gray-robed man on the main seat disappeared. "Is it here? Why can't I sense Schwer's aura?" Chu Bei looked at the clear pool in front of him expressionlessly as he communicated with the system using his divine consciousness. "Who are you?" Before the system could respond to Chu Bei, a ripple appeared in front of Chu Bei, and a middle-aged man in a gray robe appeared. "Look! Other than the owner of the All Heavens shop, another person has appeared. What's his background? Why would he appear in the Netherworld sect? Nine Nether patterns, he's from the Nine Nether clan! That's the ancient clan that controls the Netherworld sect." Seeing the figure that suddenly appeared in front of Chu Bei, the immortal emperors of the great domain of chaos were stunned at first, but they quickly recognized the purple cloud-like pattern on the gray-robed middle-aged man's forehead and confirmed his identity. "I am the owner of the All Heavens shop." At the end of the Netherworld stairway, Chu Bei stood by the pool and looked calmly at the gray-robed man. He could feel the strength of the man in front of him, and his aura was even stronger than his. "The owner of the All Heavens shop? I've never heard of it. I am the current patriarch of the Nine Nether clan, Yu Bai. Why have you entered the Netherworld sect?" Yu Bai put his hands behind his back and looked at Chu Bei. "I wish to revive someone," Chu Bei replied. "As expected." Yu Bai sighed. "What? Is it difficult? If you have any conditions, feel free to state them." Sensing Yu Bai's expression, Chu Bei knitted his brows. "Owner of the All Heavens shop, I am also dissatisfied with you. This is your first time entering the Netherworld sect, and you've already reached the top of the heavenly stairway. According to the rules of the Nine Nether clan, I should have helped you. But right now, I am powerless to do anything." As his voice fell, Yu Bai let out another long sigh. "What do you mean? Since there are rules, why are you powerless?" Chu Bei asked with an unsightly expression. "Follow me." Yu Bai turned and disappeared, and Chu Bei followed closely behind. What did the two of them talk about? Where did they go? Why didn't the scene change? Seeing Chu Bei and Yu Bai disappear, the expressions of the experts of the great primal chaos domain changed. At this time, Chu Bei had already followed the mysterious passage opened by Yu Bai to the great world where the Nine Nether clan was located. Can you feel the difference between this place and the great primal chaos domain? Above the immortal island, Yu Bai looked at Chu Bei and asked. "Origin aura." Chu Bei immediately replied. The biggest difference between this great world and the great primal chaos domain was that the air was filled with origin aura. In the great primal chaos domain, only Source Heavenstone mines had origin aura. However, it was everywhere here, and extremely pure. Since you have already entered the second Emperor stage, you must be standing at the peak of the immortal Emperor stage in the great primal chaos domain. However, you should also know that this is still not the end of the Tao. It's not just you. Even we have only created origin spaces. I have personally experienced the methods of my clan's first patriarch. With a raise of his hand, he created an origin world that was mixed with tens of thousands of Emperor arts. The second Emperor stage cultivators had no power to resist at all. Yu Bai seemed to be recalling something, and his gaze became deep. "Source Heaven World, third Emperor stage," Chu Bei replied. Chapter 790. Yu Bai nodded. "Ever since that calamity, our clan's first clan leader joined forces with the other 3 immortal emperors to create a great world, the Origin World. There are a total of 36 doors in the Origin World that are independent of each other. The Nine Nether clan occupies one of the doors. The foundation of these 36 doors is Genesis Chi." Chu Bei could not help but ask, "What does this have to do with the person I want to revive?" "Don't be impatient." Yu Bai smiled faintly, before he continued. "When the Origin World was first formed, Genesis Chi was abundant, and cultivation speed was astonishingly fast. However, tens of millions of years ago, the Genesis Chi of the 36 doors suddenly shrank, showing signs of completely disappearing. Do you know what this means? Once the Genesis Chi of a door completely disappears, it will leave the origin world and return to the great domain of the primal chaos. Realizing the impending danger, the 36 doors began to search for a solution. However, even after using all sorts of methods, they were unable to slow down the rate of Genesis Chi loss. In order to not leave the origin world, the factions with origin tools began to use the Genesis Chi in their tools in an attempt to achieve a balance. However, this was only a temporary measure. As for those without origin tools, they could only continue to let their Genesis Chi dwindle. Our clan was very fortunate. The first clan leader left behind an origin tool, but due to the continuous release of large amounts of Genesis Chi, it showed signs of deteriorating, and the amount of Genesis Chi it could release continued to decrease. It was only 10,000 years ago that we discovered that it could no longer display its original function, but it was already too late. At this point, Yubai pointed at a giant black tablet at the center of the island. That is our clan's origin tool. I'm sure you've already guessed its original function. Chu Bei had noticed the black tablet the moment he entered the 9 nether door. It seemed to be the end of Genesis Chi, but was showing signs of drying up. However, he had not expected it to be a huge origin tool. Its name is the 9 nether tablet, and it is the foundation of our clan. It is also the reason why our clan can control the nether world. Even if an immortal emperor's soul is destroyed, as long as the caster is strong enough, the 9 nether steel can revive him. Above the immortal island, the 9 netherbird clan leader Yushui calmly looked at Chu Bei. But in order to maintain our clan's spatial Genesis Chi, it has used up too much of its energy. It is now very difficult to revive someone whose spirit has been destroyed. With that, Yushui shook her head and sighed. Ordinary emperor artifacts can repair themselves. Could it be that even more mysterious origin tools can't repair themselves? Chu Bei frowned as he stared at the 9 Serenity steel. Even our clan's understanding of the 9 Abyss Monument is shallow. If it could repair itself, our clan wouldn't be in such a predicament. After all, the Genesis Chi released by the 9 Underworlds Monument was enough to replenish the lost Genesis Chi. Yushui indifferently replied. Hearing this, Chu Bei's face turned even uglier, and he unconsciously clenched his fists. Is there really no other way? Chu Bei muttered, his frown growing deeper. Buzz buzz buzz. However, at this moment, the black brick in Chu Bei's knowledge that had been silent all this time, the Origin Tool Catalog, suddenly bobbed up and down and began to vibrate. In the next instant, a wisp of faint purple light shot out from the Origin Tool Catalog, gathering between Chu Bei's brows before shooting towards the 9 Serenities steel below. Boom! When the faint purple light shone on the 9 Serenities steel, the latter suddenly released a loud noise. Immediately after, the 9 Serenities steel trembled violently. Chu Bei and Yushui were stunned. Before they could react, the 9 Serenities steel had already begun to rapidly expand. In an instant, the valley it was located in was filled to the brim. In the end, the 9 Serenities steel rose into the air and hovered at Chu Bei's height. Fellow cultivator, Yubai stared at Chu Bei in incomparable shock, his face filled with astonishment. At this moment, Chu Bei's entire body was wrapped in faint purple light. In particular, faint purple light had condensed between his brows and shone on the 9 Serenities steel. When he looked at the 9 Serenities steel again, it was as if it had been reborn with a faint purple light. Its buzzing seemed to contain a kind of excitement. At first glance, there seemed to be some kind of connection between the two. In response to Yubai's questioning gaze, Chu Bei fell silent and did not immediately respond. At this moment, he was also incomparably shocked. He had discovered that in addition to the 9 Serenities steel, the Origin Tool Catalog and his knowledge also seemed to be changing. The mysterious runes revolving around it were slowly assembling. Rumble! Another few seconds passed. The 9 Serenities steel began to turn transparent, and the power contained within it grew increasingly terrifying. On the countless immortal islands below, more and more experts awakened from their secluded cultivation and hovered in the air. When they discovered the changes to the 9 Serenities' steel, every one of them revealed looks of astonishment. What did that person do to the clan treasure? The clan leader is also here. Did you guys feel it? The Genesis Chi in the 9 Serenities' steel is becoming increasingly abundant. That person must have been invited by the clan leader. This is great. In other words, the day of Genesis Chi destruction has been extended again. Who is that person? How did he do it? Countless origin race experts stared at Chu Bei in shock, their eyes filled with confusion and gratitude. This is great. The 9 Serenities' steel has awakened. Yu Bai was overjoyed when he sensed the changes to the 9 Serenities' steel. With a buzzing sound, the 9 Serenities' steel left Chu Bei's body and shrank until it returned to its original size. Then, with a boom, it was inserted into the valley below, continuously releasing Genesis Chi. Fellow cultivator 9 Serenities, can we revive Shuer now? Chu Bei ignored the changes in the Origin Tool catalog in his knowledge and immediately cast his gaze towards Yu Shuai with an excited expression. Yu Bai nodded. Fellow cultivator, please follow me. As his voice faded, Yu Bai waved his sleeve, causing a ripple to appear. In an instant, Yu Shuai and Chu Bei's figures disappeared. Quick, look! It's appeared again! Almost at the same time, an expert from the great domain of the Chaos Heavens cried out in surprise. In an instant, all the experts' gazes once again focused on the image of the Nether Gate in the distant sky. The Nether Heaven staircase had a total of 99 steps. In front of the last step was a clear pool. At this moment, Yu Shuai and Chu Bei were standing beside the pool. Owner of the All Heavens shop, have you really thought this through? Although you revived the 9 Serenities' steel, the clan rules set by our ancestors cannot be broken. Even if you reach the top of the heavenly staircase, you can only revive one person. Yu Shuai calmly looked at Chu Bei. At this moment, the attention of the 9 Serenities experts on the Immortal Islands in the 9 Serenities door was also focused on Chu Bei, as if they were curious about what kind of existence a second Emperor expert who could revive the 9 Serenities steel would revive. Thank you? Chu Bei calmly looked at Yu Shuai. Chapter 791. Yu Shuai nodded. With a wave of her right hand, the 9 Serenities tablet appeared. The next moment, the pool water churned violently, and the water's surface was enshrouded in multicolored mist. Boom! The 9 Serenities tablet floated above the pool water, emitting a dazzling divine light that enveloped the pool water. Origin energy filled the air, and countless specks of light rose from the bottom of the pool amidst a strange Tao sound. They converged and gradually formed a beautiful woman with a graceful figure. Look! It's a woman! Is that the person the owner of the All Heavens shop wants to revive? Who is she to the owner of the All Heavens shop? Many experts from the Chaos realm fixed their gazes on Wu Shuer, carefully sizing her up. Is that our master's wife? She's so beautiful! Bing Tong Tong exclaimed in the All Heavens shop. Xiao Yan, Chen Nan, Tang San, and the others also fixed their gazes on Wu Shuer, their faces filled with joy. She doesn't have any cultivation. This is my only chance, and I actually used it on an ordinary person. She must be the most important person to him. Inside the 9 Serenities door, a group of experts detected Mu Shuer's aura and were surprised. Shuer, Chu Bei murmured softly. He had already decided that once Mu Shuer was revived, he would teach her the art of immortality. Before this, he couldn't have predicted what happened in the sky market, let alone that Mu Shuer was dead when he returned. Buzz! At this moment, an arch bridge appeared in front of Mu Shuer, its surface emitting a dazzling divine light. Fellow Chu, her dissipated spirit has completely reassembled. She only needs to cross this reincarnation bridge to be truly revived, Yu Shuai said, pointing at the bridge. Chu Bei nodded heavily, his fists clenched, his eyes shining. However, Just as Chu Bei was waiting expectantly for Mu Shuer to cross the reincarnation bridge, a bolt of black lightning suddenly appeared above the bridge. Boom! Before Chu Bei could react, the black lightning struck Mu Shuer's body. In an instant, Mu Shuer dissipated, returning to nothingness. No! Don't! Chu Bei came back to his senses and immediately sent out several ripples. But Mu Shuer had already disappeared. Boom! Chu Bei turned to attack the black thunderbolt above the reincarnation bridge. With a terrifying bang, the black thunderbolt was annihilated. I failed! How could this be? This has never happened before. Why would lightning appear on the reincarnation bridge? The powerhouses of the 9 Netherbird clan looked at each other with confusion in their eyes. In the past, when the 9 Netherbird clan resurrected the dead, the reincarnation bridge had never shown any abnormalities. The only possibility was that the Tianluo clan, who controlled the reincarnation bridge, had intervened. Fellow Taoist, what's going on? Where did that lightning come from? Chu Bei looked at Yu Shui, his voice turning low. Fellow Chu, have you ever had a grudge with the Tianluo clan? Surprise flashed across Yu Bai's eyes when he saw the black thunderbolt that had suddenly descended. Clearly, he had not expected such a situation to occur. Tianluo clan. Chu Bei's face was extremely gloomy and his eyes were bloodshot. Not long ago, he had personally killed 2 9 stars and 1 celestial emperor from the Tianluo clan. At this moment, Chu Bei recalled the words of the 2 celestial emperors from the Tianluo clan before they died. Anyone related to you will never enter the reincarnation bridge. These were the final words of the 2 celestial emperors before their souls exploded. They were filled with monstrous hatred. Chu Bei suppressed the anger in his heart and looked at Yu Shui. Fellow Taoist Shuer, you killed my clansman. How can we let her cross the reincarnation bridge safely? After being struck by the black thunderbolt of my clan, even if the 9 Netherbird clan intervenes, it will be impossible for her to survive. Before Yu Shui could speak, a cold voice sounded. Then, a man in a long black robe appeared above the reincarnation bridge. Chu Bei glanced at the black-robed man coldly and then looked at Yu Shui, as if waiting for her answer. Yu Shui did not speak. She only shook her head and sighed. Your entire clan deserves to die. Chu Bei's gaze returned to the black-robed man above the reincarnation bridge. He could no longer suppress his killing intent and a violent aura erupted. The Tianluo clan. They've appeared again. They're the ones who stopped Master's wife's resurrection. The Tianluo clan's actions are truly irreconcilable with the All-Heavens shop. In the chaotic heavens, countless experts guessed the identity of the black-robed man and voiced their opinions. The people in the All-Heavens shop were burning with anger. Tianhai, why don't you let me be the mediator between your clan and fellow Taoist Chu? Yu Shui looked at the black-robed man on the reincarnation bridge and said indifferently. Clan leader Yu, are you trying to interfere in my clan's affairs? If so, I'll go back and tell the clan leader to interfere in your clan's affairs in the future. The black-robed man looked at Yu Shui without any respect. Tianhai, how dare you? How dare you speak to my clan leader like that? At this moment, a man appeared beside Yu Shui and shouted at the black-robed man from the Tianluo clan. The Tianluo clan should all die. Before Yu Shui could speak, Chu Bei's low voice sounded again. Fellow Taoist Chu, Tianhai is the second elder of the Tianluo clan. Like you, his cultivation has reached the pinnacle of 1-star Emperor level 2. Yu Shui deliberately pointed out Tianhai's identity. In his opinion, although Chu Bei had reached 2-star Emperor level 2, he was only at the pinnacle of 1-star Emperor level and could not contend against an ancient clan. Moreover, the 9 Netherbird clan was greatly indebted to Chu Bei. In addition, he had failed to revive Mu Shui and felt guilty. He naturally did not want to see Chu Bei and the Tianluo clan fight to the death. Chu Bei glanced at Yu Shui indifferently and did not respond. At this moment, his divine will was communicating with the system in his knowledge. Do you really want to destroy an ancient clan? The golden disc swayed, and a faint sigh sounded from within. I don't want you to be so ostentatious, but for the current situation, it's useless for me to say anything more. Just as the system's voice fell, the two floating source heaven spaces on the system interface lit up with a dazzling divine light. The next moment, there was a buzzing sound, and a white and tender figure appeared in the divine light. It was a white and fat doll without any clothes. This is an origin spirit. When a 2-star Emperor level 2 breaks through to 4-star, an origin spirit will be born in the source heaven space. 5-star. This is the highest level of cultivation I can lend you at the moment. A low voice sounded from the golden disk. Many thanks. Chu Bei's divine will moved, and the source heaven space with the origin spirit instantly trembled. At the same time, Chu Bei's overall aura also changed slightly. Then, Chu Bei looked at Tian Hai above the reincarnation bridge. What? You finally can't hold it in anymore and are ready to make a move? Tian Hai sneered when he met Chu Bei's gaze. As his cold voice fell, ripples spread out in all directions with Tian Hai as the center, forming a huge square space. Chapter 792. That's the source heaven space that sect master Chu mentioned. That guy from the Tianluo clan, like the owner of the All Heaven shop, has also reached the Emperor Stage 2. Won't the next battle be a battle between Emperor Stage 2 experts? The immortal emperors from the great domains of the Chaos Heavens were all stunned when they recognized the source heaven space that Tianhai had used. Among them, even Yuendi, who was ranked first on the Immortal Emperor ranking list, was only at the peak of Emperor Stage 1 and 9 stars. If the owner of the All Heavens shop hadn't told them about the Emperor Stage 2, they wouldn't have been able to recognize the source heaven space. Master will be fine, right? In the All Heavens shop, Bing Tong Tong looked worried. Don't worry, Master has never been defeated. Xiao Yan glanced at Bing Tong Tong, his expression unchanged. Clan leader, should we make a move? The owner of the All Heavens shop revived the 9 Nether Monument, which is a great favor to our clan. The second elder of the 9 Netherbird clan said to Yu Shui. The owner of the All Heavens shop is also at the peak of Emperor Stage 1. Even if he can't win against Tianhai, he won't lose either. Yu Shui shook her head. What I'm worried about is if Tian Tong attacks the owner of the All Heavens shop. What should we do then? This is indeed a difficult problem. The second elder of the 9 Netherbird clan fell into deep thought when he heard Yu Shui's words. If they stood by and did nothing, they would be labeled as unrighteous. But if they made a move, they would be standing on the opposite side of the Tianluo clan. Since ancient times, the 9 Netherbird clan and the Tianluo clan had stayed out of each other's business. Let's wait and see first. Yu Shui's gaze swept over Chu Bei and Tianhai as she sighed. As for Chu Bei, he didn't even look at Tianhai and waved his right hand. Suddenly, the void in front of him cracked open, revealing a huge gap. Inside the gap, there was chaos at first, then a clear and bright world appeared. There were 36 doors in this world, and behind each door was a small world that didn't seem to be related to each other. Runes of the Great Tao interweaved above the doors, revealing different words, such as 9 Nether and Tianluo. Do you think I don't exist? Tianhai's eyes narrowed as he looked at the open gate. He waved his hand, and sent the source heaven space enveloping him, towards Chu Bei. What kind of place did the owner of All Heaven's shop open? There are a total of 36 doors. Could it be that the 9 Nether and Tianluo clans came from there? Are there ancient tribes living in the other portals as well? Is the Zero organization, which controls all the passages in the major regions, among them? When the experts from the various large domains in the Chaos Universe saw Chu Bei open the Origin world with a wave of his hand, they were first stunned, then astonished. As Emperor's Heaven, Emperor Lord of the Emperor Heavens, Heaves Origin Emperor 9 Heavens Palace, Emperors. Boom! The Tianluo clan's second elder Tianhai's source heaven space arrived in front of Chu Bei with terrifying Genesis aura. However, just as the dazzling Genesis heaven space was about to envelop Chu Bei, a loud boom rang out. The Genesis heaven space bounced far away as if it was hit by an irresistible force. It didn't touch Chubei at all. Tianhai was stunned when he witnessed this scene, but Chubei had already stepped into the origin world before he could recover from his shock. To be precise, he had appeared above the door with the word Tianluo floating above it. How did he directly open Tianhai's Genesis heaven space? The Nine Nether Clan's second elder was puzzled. When two immortal emperors of the same cultivation level fought, they would usually use their respective Genesis heaven spaces before competing. No one had ever heard of someone who could ignore their opponent's Genesis heaven space. His aura changed in that instant. Yu Shui frowned slightly as if thinking about something. Clan leader, what do you mean? The Nine Nether Clan's second elder looked at Yu Shui. It should be an illusion. Yu Shui shook her head and also appeared in the origin world. In the origin world, Chubei coldly looked at the tightly shut Tianluo door below. He clenched his fist and punched downwards in a simple and violent manner. Bang! Accompanied by a loud bang, the sky net door rippled. Dense Emperor Dao runes floated from the door, and a strange buzzing sound continued to ring. Tianhai, you didn't handle this matter well enough. This person has already come to the origin world and is attacking our clan's door so brazenly. I'm afraid our Tianluo clan will become the laughingstock of other clans. At this moment, a chilling voice rang out from the door. Immediately after, several figures walked out from the Tianluo door, each of them with extremely powerful auras. The number of immortal emperors could be counted on 2 hands. In terms of aura, the red-haired middle-aged man at the center was even stronger than the second elder, Tianhai. Obviously, he had also stepped into the second emperor realm. Yu Shui had her hands behind her back as she glanced indifferently at the red-haired middle-aged man and transmitted her voice to Chubei. This is the Tianluo clan's grand elder, Tianyu. He's also the second strongest person in the Tianluo clan, and has already stepped into the 2 stars realm. Yu Shui, do you have any dealings with this person? Or perhaps you're bored and have come to watch the show? Suddenly, another low voice sounded, and it was filled with dignity. On the other hand, the all-heaven shop established by the other party was far from comparable to his race. If they really fought to the death, the other party would flee first, and then turn back to take revenge on his race. This was not a situation he wanted to see. As for Chubei, he merely glanced at Yu Shui and said in a cold voice, I have said that everyone in the Tianluo clan must die. If you want to fight, then let's continue. Tian Tong's expression grew even gloomier when he heard Chubei. His terrifying origin energy immediately erupted once more, and it condensed into an attack that blasted towards Chubei. Chubei raised his fist to meet the attack. Die! Accompanied by a single syllable from the cold in the forest. Another world-shaking rumble resounded from the battlefield. Even Yu Shui's body was covered in ripples that blasted the aftershock of their attacks away. Oem! 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 Right at this moment, amongst the 36 entrances in the origin world, besides the 9 Hell and the Tianluo clan, the other 34 entrances showed signs of activity as well, and there were even a few figures that walked out from some of them. An ethereal entrance. A large mountain that was surrounded by a river of stars had appeared within the entrance. A slender figure was faintly discernible at the peak of the mountain. She stood within the ethereal mist, and her hair fluttered while the river of time flowed within her eyes. Who is he? He's actually able to fight Tian Tong. The woman within the entrance flipped her hair while slight surprise appeared on her flawless features. The blood demon entrance. A ripple appeared in front of the entrance as a phenomenon appeared. To be more precise, it was like a door had been opened, and a boundless reddish-brown expanse of land lay before them. It seemed as if it had been tainted by blood, and it was cold and desolate. Desolation and emptiness coexisted here, and there were a few mysterious rocks that emanated a strange aura scattered about. Profound words were carved into the surface of these rocks. The world within the entrance was dusky, and the faint black mist added a gloomy feeling to it. The boundless expanse of land was distant and deathly still, and there were no signs of life at all. Since the establishment of the origin world, there have been countless battles between the entrances, but this is the first time a battle between the leaders has occurred. How interesting! Suddenly, a ray of light shot out from the depths of the reddish-brown expanse of land, and it pierced through the battlefield and swept past Chu Bei in an unbridled manner. The Naga clan's entrance. When the entrance opened, it was like a golden ocean world. Golden waves swept up from the surface of the ocean from time to time, bringing about majestic energy storms. What's going on? The Genesis Chi within the 9 Underworlds clan has strengthened. Could it be that they've found a way to save us? Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and the golden ocean surface was cut in half. Immortal Emperor Aura seeped out, and an imposing figure appeared on the surface of the ocean. His attention was no longer on the battlefield, but when he sensed the changes in the Genesis Chi within the 9 Underworlds door, his eyes suddenly narrowed. Suddenly, the eternal void shook, and the river of time became chaotic. It's him! The owner of the All-Heaven shop! I didn't expect him to come to the origin world. Who would have thought that his strength has already reached Tian Tong's level? At the same time, several figures walked out of a door with the words Emperor Hall floating above it. When they recognized Chu Bei, they instantly revealed astonished expressions. Rumble! In the origin world, the battle between the patriarch of the Tianluo clan, Tian Tong, and Chu Bei was about to erupt. Under the gazes of countless immortal emperors, the two used all kinds of supreme emperor techniques one after another. One world battlefield collapsed, and another immediately created a brand new world battlefield. The river of time collapsed one after another, from one end to the other, passing through the ancient times until the present. Boom! Tian Tong unleashed the Source Heaven space, which enveloped Chu Bei. The density of Source Heaven power within it was far greater than that of the Emperor Grade 1 Sky Sea. Almost at the same time, Chu Bei also unleashed the Source Heaven space. Unlike the former, Chu Bei's Source Heaven space had a white and chubby baby waving its little hands. Source Spirit! How is this possible? Who is he? If he had reached the Emperor Grade 2 before that catastrophe, why would he appear here, and even come to the great domain of the Chaos Heavens? When they saw the white and chubby baby in Chu Bei's Source Heaven space, the expressions of the experts in front of the various doors changed. Their voices were filled with shock, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Chapter 794. Above 4 stars. We've provoked an existence we shouldn't have. The Tianluo clan experts looked at each other, and then their gazes fell on Tian Tong, their faces filled with worry. Yu Shui and the other immortal emperors from the 9 Netherbird clan were also stunned. The appearance of an origin spirit was beyond their expectations. At first, he thought that Chu Bei had just entered the second stage of the martial emperor stage not long ago. It was only after his first battle with Tian Tong that he realized he was wrong. Tian Tong was also a peak second stage or third stage martial emperor. But just when he thought that Tian Tong and Chu Bei were evenly matched, the appearance of an origin spirit told him that he was wrong again. An origin spirit would only appear in the origin heaven space when one broke through from 3 stars to 4 stars. It seemed like there was only a difference of 1 star, but the actual disparity in battle power was not just 1 or 2 stars. Perhaps the situation wouldn't be obvious if they didn't use their full strength, but as the battle reached its climax, the gap between the two would gradually become apparent. Rumble. This battle lasted for countless years. More and more experts came out from their respective doors to watch the battle. In the first 10,000 years, Tian Tong had used all kinds of emperor arts to compress the origin heaven power in her origin heaven space to the extreme, but she was still able to contend with Chu Bei. However, 10,000 years later, cracks appeared in Tian Tong's origin sky. She was also blasted apart by Chu Bei again and again. In the third 10,000 year, Tianluo clans Tianhai and Tianyu also joined the battle to help Tiantong. But even so, the situation didn't change. In the fifth 50,000 year, Yu Shui appeared on the battlefield and tried to persuade Chu Bei, but when she realized that Chu Bei didn't show any mercy and even attacked her, she immediately retreated. In the sixth 10,000 year, Tianhai, a peak second stage and one-star martial emperor, had his spirit and physical body truly perished. In the seventh 10,000 year, Tianyu, a peak second stage and 2 stars martial emperor, was completely killed by Chu Bei. In the eighth 10,000 year, the Tianluo clan's patriarch's origin heaven-space collapsed, and his spirit was destroyed in the river of time. Boom! Along with an enormous bang, the battlefield vanished, and the origin world instantly fell into a strange and deathly silence. Chu Bei's gaze swept across the various sects expressionlessly. Finally, he fixed his gaze on the Tianluo clan's door. "Brother Chu, please leave a way out. The Tianluo clan is an ancient clan. Yu Shui seemed to have seen through Chu Bei's thoughts and hurriedly spoke up. However, before he could finish speaking, Chu Bei's cold voice rang out. "I have said that everyone in the Tianluo clan must die." Chu Bei's eyes were filled with killing intent. As his voice rang out, the source heaven domain with an origin spirit slammed into the heavenly net door. Crack! With a crisp sound, the door split open, and the Genesis heaven space seeped into the door. Immediately after, there was a series of explosions, and a dazzling light shone from the Tianluo gate. When everything calmed down, sighs could be heard from the other portals. They had witnessed the demise of an ancient race with their own eyes. Amidst the sighs of pity, the cultivators from the other sects left one after another. It was as if they were just watching a show. Yu Shui shook his head and disappeared with his clansmen. In next to no time, besides the 35 tightly shut doors, only Chu Bei remained within the entire origin world. Master. When Chu Bei left the origin world and returned to the chaos multiverse, Xiao Yan, Yi Fan, Chen Nan and the others immediately approached him with respectful expressions. Chu Bei's suffocating and terrifying aura had already vanished. After sensing the auras of the various immortal emperors around him, he said indifferently, "I won't be seeing anyone in the near future." The immortal emperors' auras dissipated, and they all left. Tang San asked, "Master, is Master's wife not coming back?" Chu Bei didn't answer Tang San's question. Instead, he said, "I need to go into secluded cultivation for a period of time. I'll leave the trivial matters of the All-Heavens shop to all of you." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Bei transformed into strands of ripples and vanished. After destroying the Tianluo clan, Chu Bei entered secluded cultivation and began endless cultivation. While Chu Bei was cultivating, the golden disk in his sea of knowledge lit up with a dazzling divine light. Every time Chu Bei finished cultivating an Emperor's Tao, the golden disk would release a stream of light that entered Chu Bei's body. Time passed quickly during secluded cultivation. In the first 100,000 years, Chu Bei entered the Emperor 1/6 stars realm. In the second 100,000 years, Chu Bei entered the Emperor 1/7 stars realm. In the third 100,000 years, Chu Bei entered the Emperor 1/8 stars realm. In the fourth 100,000 years, Chu Bei entered the Emperor 1/9 stars realm. In the fifth 100,000 years, Chu Bei was still in the Emperor 1/9 stars realm. In the first million years, Chu Bei comprehended the myriad Taos of all the highest grade goods in the All-Heavens shop and entered the Emperor 2 stage. The moment he broke through, the immortal Emperor power in Chu Bei's body seemed to have undergone a qualitative change, and a mysterious space enveloped him. Source Heaven Space, the symbol of the Emperor 2 stage. Chu Bei didn't come out of secluded cultivation. He continued to cultivate endlessly, as if he was possessed. In the second million years, Chu Bei still reached the peak of the Emperor 2 stage 1 star. Chapter 795. Even though countless years had passed, Mu Shui's death was still a hurdle in Chu Bei's heart that he could not overcome. As he grew stronger, he also knew that the possibility of reviving Mu Shui was close to zero. However, what made him happy was that the system actually told him that there was still a possibility of revival. Who is Old Seventh? Where can I find him? Chu Bei asked impatiently. I once told you that before the chaos and the great heavens were formed, there were 18 origin tools. These 18 origin tools were ranked according to their strength. The Old Seventh I mentioned is the origin tool rank 7th. The golden disc replied indifferently. As for where to find him, you'll have to rely on him. At this point, the golden disc shook and extended a branch to point at the black brick that was floating up and down. How do I use this origin tool chart? Chu Bei frowned. Even though his cultivation had reached the Emperor 2 or 4 stars, he still could not see through this black stone brick. It was as if there was a mysterious seal inside. No matter how he penetrated it with his divine sense, he could not penetrate it. Although it's still in a dormant state, your strength is already enough to provide us with energy. Perhaps in another 1,000,000 years, it should awaken. And I'll recover more of my memories. Above the golden disc, a white and tender doll appeared. When the origin tool chart awakens, not only will Old Seventh's information appear, but the information of the other origin tools will also appear. At that time, you can use the location given by it to find Old Seventh. I won't be able to help you on your path of cultivation in the future. You can only rely on yourself. The golden disc's voice sounded again. You should be able to sense that the energy in the origin tool chart is also connected to you. If you encounter a strong enemy, you can use my power and its power at the same time. Hearing the golden disc's words, Chu Bei nodded slightly. With his current strength, every breakthrough was extremely difficult. He had cultivated 10 million Dao fruits to the Emperor realm, and even fused 10 million Dao fruits into one. However, his cultivation level stopped at the Emperor 2 or 4 stars. It's time to go out and take a look. Chu Bei sighed. With a wave of his sleeve, the independent world he had created shattered. In the great heavens of the chaos. Above high heavens, in the All Heavens Shop's Emperor district. In the distant sky, a figure walked out from the pitch-black gap. Chu Bei frowned as soon as he returned to the grand heavens. Strange energy fluctuations actually appeared in the air of the grand heavens. It was the origin energy that only the origin realm possessed. Master, you've come out of seclusion! Soon, Xiaoyan, Yifan, Chen Nan, Tang San, and the others appeared in front of Chu Bei. Chu Bei glanced at Xiaoyan and the others. After 2,000,000 years, other than Bing Tong Tong, Bu Xian, and Little Long Huang, everyone else's cultivation had surpassed the Yi's 7 stars realm. What is this Genesis Qi? Chu Bei asked. Master, 1,000,000 years ago, 9 doors in the origin world left the origin world due to Genesis Qi exhaustion and returned to the All Heavens regions. The thin Genesis Qi in the air was brought by these 9 doors, Xiaoyan replied. What did they do? Chu Bei frowned slightly. Just like us, they created an emperor province on their own and didn't do anything else, Xiaoyan said. Go and invite all the immortal emperors of the grand heavens to the emperor province. Chu Bei glanced at Xiaoyan, Chen Nan, Tang San, and the other disciples. Master, what are you going to do? Shi Hao and the others were puzzled. You will know soon, Chu Bei said indifferently and then waved his hand. Go. Yes, master. Xiaoyan and the others did not ask any more questions and disappeared. Above the heavens, Emperor Province under the moon. In the center of Emperor Province, on a sacred mountain surrounded by galaxies, a slender figure stood in the mist. Her hair danced in the wind, and the river of time flowed in her eyes. Immortal Emperor Xiao, why do you have time to come here? The Empress of the Moon looked at Xiaoyan, who suddenly appeared in front of her, and a smile appeared on her exquisite and flawless face. Master has come out of seclusion and invited you to the All Heavens shop, Xiaoyan said calmly. You really are cold. The Empress of the Moon glared at Xiaoyan, and her words were filled with resentment. I have personally invited you. Xiaoyan did not say anything else and disappeared. Above the heavens, Emperor Province. This great province was like its name. There was almost no life as far as the eye could see. It could even be said that this huge Emperor Province only existed for one immortal emperor. The reddish-brown earth seemed to have been dyed in blood, cold and lonely. Desolation and emptiness coexisted. There were some huge rocks scattered on the ground, and at first glance they looked like tombstones. The world was dim, and the faint black mist added a sense of gloominess to Emperor Province. The endless reddish-brown earth was distant and deathly silent. There was no sign of life. Suddenly, a figure appeared above the great earth. Immortal Emperor Shi's arrival is truly rare. In the depths of the reddish-brown earth, a ray of light shot out, and then another figure appeared. Immortal Emperor Huang Wu, Master has come out of seclusion. He invites you to make a trip. Shi Hao went straight to the point. All right. Immortal Emperor Huang Wu replied with a single word. Above the heavens, Star Ocean Emperor Province. Walala! This Emperor Province was especially special. It was like a silver sea that stretched as far as the eye could see. From time to time, waves would sweep up, as if a metal storm was beating against the shore. A loud sound rang out. The surface of the sea seemed to have been cut by a giant sword that reached the heavens, splitting it into two. Then, the aura of an immortal emperor overflowed, cutting through the past, present, and future. Immortal Emperor Xingqiong, Master has come out of seclusion. He invites you for a chat. Tang San arrived, and his vigorous voice spread to every corner of Star Ocean Emperor Province. I understand. Immortal Emperor Xingqiong appeared on the surface of the sea. His cold eyes pierced through the heavens, shaking the ages. The long river of time was in chaos at this moment. Above the heavens, darkness Emperor Province. This Emperor Province was formed from countless islands filled with gloomy energy. Countless experts resided on each island. Truly a rare guest. The moment Qinan appeared, above the largest island, Immortal Emperor He Wu appeared. Immortal Emperor might seeped out, making one feel intimidated at first glance. Master invites you in. Qinan was concise. After saying this, he disappeared without a trace. Above the heavens, World Creation Emperor Province. Inside Emperor Province, in a great hall, a white-haired elder dressed in a long robe sat at the head of the table. His aura was restrained, looking like an ordinary elder, but for some reason, he gave off a type of pressure that made one unable to resist. It was precisely World Creation Immortal Emperor. World Creation Old Man, Master has come out of seclusion. He wants you to go see him. Sun Wukong directly appeared in the great hall with the golden cudgel in hand. What is it? World Creation Immortal Emperor frowned. You'll know when you go. Sun Wukong then said. If you don't go, I don't mind sparring with you. When he heard Sun Wukong's threatening words, World Creation Immortal Emperor's expression became incomparably ugly, but he also felt helpless. Chapter 796. 2,000,000 years had passed, and he had only just stepped into the 7 stars realm. Yet, the other party had already stepped into the 9 stars realm, reaching the level of Yuan Emperor. When Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and the others reached the 7 stars realm, they all came to find him to spar to repay the imprisonment battle back then. Every battle he fought ended in a crushing defeat. Han Jun and Han Kun want to go too. After all, they have also entered the Immortal Emperor realm. Sun Wukong added and left after saying that. Nether Big Region, 1 Yuan Emperor State. Above the lush Sky Peak Mountain, a man in a purple robe stood with his hands behind his back, gazing in the direction of the sky above. At that moment, a figure appeared. Brother Lin, why are you here? Emperor Yuan asked. Master has come out of seclusion and is inviting all the immortal emperors of the All Heavens Big Region to come. Thank you. Emperor Yuan disappeared. Yuan Tian Pavilion. Yuan Emperor, Luo Feng of the All Heavens Shop is here to visit. Luo Feng spoke, and a plainly dressed elder appeared. Brother Luo, you and I are already standing at the same height. There's no need to be so polite. Yuan Emperor's voice was filled with vicissitudes. The Tianluo clan invaded the All Heavens Shop, and you were willing to help at the critical moment. This is a favor. Luo Feng spoke, treating Yuan Emperor as if he was an elder. As expected of the disciple of the owner of the All Heavens Shop. Yuan Emperor laughed, his face filled with gratification. Master has come out of seclusion. I'm here to invite you over for a chat. Luo Feng continued. Great! Yuan Emperor was overjoyed to hear that Chu Bei had come out of seclusion. At that moment, all the immortal emperors of the All Heavens Big Region received invitations from the great beings of the All Heavens Shop. Have you heard? The owner of the All Heavens Shop has come out of seclusion. Of course. It's been 2 million years since he wiped out the Tianluo clan. He summoned all the immortal emperors of the big regions as soon as he came out of seclusion. I wonder what he wants to do. If you're curious, you can go to the Emperor State of the All Heavens Shop and find out. Not long after, the All Heavens Big Region became bustling with heated discussions. As more and more immortal emperors appeared above the Emperor Province, the immortal emperor's might that permeated the air reached a terrifying level. As far as the eye could see, there were thousands of immortal emperors. Do any of you know why the owner of the All Heavens Shop has summoned us here? It's probably because of the ancient clans that escaped from the Origin Realm. Don't worry, you'll know soon enough. The group of immortal emperors communicated with their divine consciousness. Everyone's eyes were focused on the All Heavens Shop in the center of Emperor District. Buzz, at this moment, a buzzing sound that sounded like a great bell rang out in the sky. In the next moment, Chu Bei walked out from the ripples above the All Heavens Shop. Behind Chu Bei were Xiaoyan, Yi Fan, Chen Nan, Tang San, Shi Hao and the other personal disciples. As expected of the strongest force in the Grand Heavens domains. This battle formation is truly terrifying. The group of immortal emperors couldn't help but tremble when they saw Chu Bei, Xiaoyan, and the others. Even the weakest of these personal disciples had reached the 7 Stars realm, not to mention the owner of the All Heavens Shop who had single-handedly destroyed the Tianluo clan with unfathomable strength. Owner of the All Heavens Shop, may I know why you've summoned us here? After a long while, Emperor Yuan was the first to ask Chu Bei. To help you break through. Chu Bei's voice was calm, but it instantly set off a great commotion. Owner of the All Heavens Shop, are you sure you want to help us break through? Emperor Yuan was astonished as if he couldn't believe Chu Bei's words. His cultivation had reached the peak of the 9 stars of the first realm of the Emperor realm. Before Chu Bei appeared, he was the strongest person in the great domain of chaos, and also ranked first on the Immortal Emperor ranking board. He had been stuck in this realm for countless years. Before Chu Bei and the Origin Realm appeared, he had doubted whether the path of cultivation had come to an end. Being at the peak of the First Heaven's Emperor Realm, if he wanted to break through again, the word, difficult, would not be enough to describe it. Even Chu Bei's personal disciples like Xiaoyan, Chen Nan, Yi Fan, and Tang San, these monsters who had risen later, had also remained at this level. They no longer showed any signs of breaking through. Owner of the All Heavens Shop, you've summoned us. Everyone here has reached the Immortal Emperor realm. At our level, can we really break through with the help of others? The other immortal emperors sent out their divine consciousnesses. Like Emperor Yuan, they couldn't believe that Chu Bei had such an ability. Chu Bei glanced at the immortal emperors around him. With a wave of his right hand, a black brick and a golden disc appeared. That's the Origin Emperor weapon of the All Heavens Shop. What's the other one? The group of immortal emperors recognized the golden disc at a glance. But when they looked at the Origin Tools list, they revealed confused expressions. Under the gazes of countless immortal emperors, the Origin Emperor weapon catalog and the golden disc rapidly expanded. In the blink of an eye, they occupied the entire sky above the All Heavens Shop. Buzz buzz. Wisps of faint purple light shot out from the Origin Emperor weapon catalog and the golden disc, creating ripples that spread out in all directions. In an instant, the faint purple light formed a huge circular barrier that enveloped the entire All Heavens shop, including all the immortal emperors present. This is the aura of the Origin Realm. What pure Origin aura! Vaguely, my bottleneck seems to be loosening. The immortal emperors, including Emperor Yuan, were first stunned when they sensed the energy contained within the faint purple light. Then, their faces lit up with joy. Before the Origin Realm appeared, the natural conditions of the Chaos Multiverse would no longer have any effect on their cultivation once they reached the Immortal Emperor Realm. Since then, their cultivation relied solely on Origin Stones, and they could only further their cultivation by extracting the energy within Origin Stones. When the 9 doors in the Origin Realm had fallen off, a small amount of Origin aura had leaked out. This was the first time they had truly sensed Origin aura. Although it was sparse, it was still tens of thousands of times purer than the energy within Origin Stones. Even so, the amount of Origin aura that leaked out was too little, and it was not of much help to their cultivation. However, the Genesis aura they sensed was 100 times or even 1,000 times purer than the aura from the 9 doors. Moreover, it was even more abundant. I'm sure all of you know that the fundamental difference between the multiverse and the Origin Realm lies in Origin aura. Chu Bei's gaze swept over the group of immortal emperors. Finally, his gaze landed on Xiaoyan, Yi Fan and the other personal disciples. The reason why all of you are unable to make a breakthrough is because you lack this essence aura. The Origin aura in the multiverse is unable to provide you with the conditions to break through. Chapter 797. At this point, Chu Bei pointed at the Origin tool chart and the golden disk in the sky. I'll provide you with the external conditions. Whether you can break through or not will depend on your luck. We won't disappoint you, Master. Xiaoyan, Yi Fan, Chen Nan, and the others responded in unison. Xiaoyan's group sat down cross-legged after the powerful voice sounded. They absorbed the abundant source aura around them and entered a training state. Yuan Di, Heng Su, Genesis Immortal Emperor, and the other immortal emperors looked at each other and immediately began to cultivate. They couldn't miss out on such an opportunity. Time passed. For the first time in hundreds of millions of years, all the immortal emperors gathered in the Chaos Heavens. They gathered in the Emperor District of the All Heavens shop. Everyone was wrapped in a faint purple light, accompanied by immortal emperor power. Their auras were restrained to the extreme. They were cultivating, inhaling and exhaling pure Origin energy. In the first 100,000 years, Desolate Immortal Emperor, Xinghai Immortal Emperor, He Wu Immortal Emperor, and the others successfully entered the First Emperor realm. In the second 100,000 years, Genesis Immortal Emperor, Yuan Immortal Emperor, and the others entered the First Emperor realm. In the first 1,000,000 years, Yuandi broke through, and a mysterious space enveloped him. The Origin Heaven space, the symbol of the Second Emperor realm. Because he had been stuck in this realm for the longest time and had pure Origin energy, he naturally became the first immortal emperor to break through among all the First Emperor realm 9 stars immortal emperors. Of course, other than the ancient races from the Origin World Portal, he was the second martial emperor level expert in the primal chaos after Chu Bei. Even though he broke through, Yuan Di still didn't open his eyes. He continued to cultivate endlessly as if he was possessed. In the second 1,000,000 years, Xiaoyan, Chen Nan, Yi Fan, Tang San, and the other personal disciples' bottlenecks loosened one after another. In the third 1,000,000 years, Chu Bei's 16 personal disciples all entered the Second Emperor realm. At the end of the fourth 1,000,000 years, in the northwest direction of the Chaos Heavens, a dazzling divine light bloomed, and several figures appeared in the distant sky. With just a beam of light, these figures seemed to pierce through billions of stars and see everything that happened in the Emperor District of the All Heavens shop. In the next moment, these figures appeared outside the Emperor District of the All Heavens shop. They were all wearing the same white robes, and there was a golden feather printed on the chest of their robes. terrifying immortal emperor energy flowed around them. They are one of the 9 ancient races that escaped from the origin realm. Look at their clothes. They're from the primordial Wind clan. Since all the immortal emperors from the great domains of chaos were gathered in the Emperor province of the All-Heavens shop, the quasi-immortal emperors from other domains naturally gathered outside the Emperor province of the All-Heavens shop all year round out of curiosity. At this time, when they saw the feather race experts appear, they were all shocked. Since the 9 doors had left the origin world and descended upon the chaos heavens, the primordial clans within the doors had never left the doors, let alone show themselves in the chaos heavens. Pure origin energy. He can actually create origin aura. What's more, it's such a vast and abundant origin aura. How is this possible? What the hell is that? Outside the Emperor province of the All-Heavens shop, the Feather Race Immortal Emperors stared blankly at the golden disc and the Origin Tool catalog with disbelief. If we can obtain those 2 treasures, does that mean we can return to the origin world? An immortal emperor's face glowed brightly, his eyes burning with passion. Don't tell me you're thinking of snatching them? You're crazy! Another Feather Race Immortal Emperor hurriedly said. Have you forgotten how the owner of the All-Heavens shop wiped out the Tianluo clan by himself? I'm afraid he's at least a 2-star or 4-star emperor. Let's go back and report this to the Patriarch. The group of Feather Race experts disappeared at the same time. Another 1,000,000 years passed. With a buzz, the golden disc and the Origin Tool catalog vibrated at the same time and stopped releasing Origin Aura. Then, the faint purple light that enveloped the All-Heavens shop in the Emperor province disappeared. Then, all the immortal emperors, including Xiao Yan, Chen Nan, Tang San, Yi Fan, and the others, slowly opened their eyes. It would be great if we could cultivate endlessly. The Empress under the moon stood up and swayed her waist as she sighed. I'm already very satisfied with breaking through 4 stars. Immortal Emperor He Wu was overjoyed as he looked at Chu Bei with gratitude in his eyes. Quick, look! The immortal emperors have come out of seclusion. Their auras are becoming more and more unfathomable. Outside the All-Heavens shop in the Emperor province, countless quasi-immortal emperors spoke one after another. Owner of the All-Heavens shop, thank you for your help. Emperor Yuan appeared in front of Chu Bei and cupped his fists. Seeing this, the other immortal emperors also cupped their fists and expressed their gratitude. At this moment, even the immortal emperors who had conflicts with Chu Bei expressed their heartfelt gratitude. Chu Bei glanced at the immortal emperors around him and nodded slightly in acknowledgement. Boom! At this moment, 9 incomparably powerful energy fluctuations surged out from the chaotic All-Heavens. These energy fluctuations were located in 9 corners of the All-Heavens, each occupying a large region. Emperor Yuan, Immortal Emperor Hengsu, and the other immortal emperors' expressions changed drastically when they sensed these 9 energy auras. It's the ancient races from the origin realm's 9 portals. What are they doing? The immortal emperors looked in 9 different directions, each corresponding to the direction of the 9 enormous energy fluctuations. They're here! Emperor Yuan's eyes narrowed as his expression turned grave. Just as Emperor Yuan finished speaking, 9 enormous energy fluctuations appeared around the All-Heavens shop in the Emperor province, each occupying an area of the void. Ripples spread out as several figures appeared from the 9 energy fluctuations, each representing a faction. Owner of the All-Heavens shop, do you know where they came from? They all descended from the origin realm. Emperor Yuan looked at Chu Bei and said. Chu Bei nodded in response. His expression did not change at all because of the appearance of these 9 factions. Unlike Chu Bei, the other immortal emperors frowned when they saw these 9 factions, their eyes filled with vigilance. The figures in these 9 factions were all immortal emperors, especially the leader. The emperor aura that surged out from him gave them a sense of oppression. This was an absolute suppression of strength. You guys have never shown yourselves ever since you left the origin realm. Why are you here now? Emperor Yuan glanced at the 9 factions and asked indifferently. It has nothing to do with you. the leader of one of the factions said calmly. He did not even look at Emperor Yuan when he spoke. His gaze was fixed on Chu Bei from beginning to end. As soon as he finished speaking, the leader of this faction pointed at the Origin Tool catalog and the golden disk in the distant sky and said to Chu Bei, "Can you tell me what they are?" Almost at the same time, the immortal emperors of the other 8 factions looked hopeful as they waited for Chu Bei's answer. Chapter 798. Chu Bei's face was expressionless. With a single thought, the Origin Tool catalog and the golden disk simultaneously turned into streaks of light that disappeared into his forehead. "Who are you? Why should I answer your question?" Chu Bei's voice was indifferent. "I am the Patriarch of the Harpies, and I have witnessed the strength of the owner of the All-Heavens shop." The Harpies' Patriarch looked at Chu Bei in an extremely polite manner. "Our clan used to live in the Origin realm, but because the Genesis Chi here grew thinner and thinner, we were forced to leave the Origin realm. When I saw the 2 mysterious objects that the owner of the All-Heavens shop possessed, I was very curious about how they could provide us with an endless supply of Genesis Chi." The Harpies' Patriarch cupped his fists. "I wonder if the owner of the All-Heavens shop is willing to provide us with Genesis Chi so that we can return to the Origin realm. The Harpies will definitely repay this kindness generously. Is that your goal as well?" Chu Bei did not immediately respond to the Harpies' Patriarch's question. Instead, he glanced at the other 8 factions. "I hope that the owner of the All-Heavens shop can help us." The leaders of the other 8 factions nodded in unison. "If that's the case, then you can all return. I have no obligation to do so." Chu Bei shook his head and waved his hand. The reason he had helped the 9 Netherbird clan back then was because he needed their help. Currently, he didn't have any interactions with these 9 forces. Most importantly, he knew too little about the Origin realm and the factions within it. He had no idea which of these factions would become his enemies in the future. "The owner of the All-Heavens shop, I hope that you can consider this carefully." The expressions of the leaders of the 9 factions darkened when they heard Chu Bei's words. "If you're not a customer, I won't keep you." Chu Bei waved his hand again. "Your actions will incur our wrath," the Harpies' Patriarch said. "Are you threatening me?" Chu Bei looked at the Harpies' Patriarch coldly. "If you represent your clan, I don't mind turning you into the 2nd Tianluo clan." Hearing the indifferent voice and meeting Chu Bei's cold gaze, the Feather clan leader's expression instantly turned ugly. He didn't say anything, only snorting coldly. His strength was roughly the same as that of the Tianluo clan leader. He was also at the peak of the 2nd realm and 3rd star martial emperor realm. His breakthrough was still far away. He had once personally witnessed the battle between Tianhai and Chu Bei, so he naturally did not believe that Tianhai's words were a threat. "Owner of All-Heavens shop, you are indeed very strong to be able to step into the 4-star realm. However, don't think that no one has walked further on the path of cultivation than you." At this moment, the leader of the other group spoke. "Even if there is, it's definitely not you." Chu Bei looked at the person who spoke and laughed coldly. His tone was filled with disdain. Among the 9 forces, the most powerful one was on par with the Tianluo clan back then. The leaders were all at the peak of the 2nd realm and the 3rd realm. With his current strength, he didn't need to fear these 9 factions even if he didn't rely on the Origin Tool catalog and the golden disk. "Owner of All-Heavens shop, although you are stronger than us, there are some things that you don't understand." The Feather clan leader spoke again. "Could it be that you really believe that the Tianluo clan's experts are all dead? If their ancestors can return, I'm afraid that you will be consigned to eternal damnation. If you can help us return to the Origin realm now, we might be able to help you if that day really comes." Chu Bei was slightly taken aback by the Feather clan leader's words. Just as he had guessed, the Origin realm, which was independent of the Primal Chaos realms, hid a secret that very few people knew about. "There's no need for you to worry about my matters." Chu Bei's decision did not change. He remained unmoved and waved his hand, dismissing the 9 forces. If there really came a day when he was in danger, he didn't think that these forces would be able to help him. During the battle with the Tianluo clan, the 9 Netherbird clan experts had only offered a few words of advice. In the end, they had only been spectators. Owner of All Heaven's shop, are you sure you don't want to reconsider? Not only the Feather Clan leader, but the leaders of the other 8 forces also took a step forward and stared coldly at Chu Bei. If you don't leave, I don't mind sending you away by force. Chu Bei waved his sleeve, and a huge ripple instantly spread out. A fair and tender baby wandered in the ripple, and a terrifying emperor aura filled the air. When they sensed Chu Bei's aura fluctuation, the leaders of the 9 forces looked at each other. In the end, they all snorted coldly, and their eyes were filled with unwillingness. A moment later, the 9 forces disappeared one after another. Owner of All Heaven's shop, I'm afraid these guys won't let this go. Yuan Di and Immortal Emperor Heng Su glanced in the direction where the 9 powerful energy fluctuations had disappeared and said to Chu Bei faintly. So what? Chu Bei's voice was calm as his gaze landed on Yuan Di. How much do you know about that calamity? Upon hearing Chu Bei's words, not only Yuan Di, but all the Immortal Emperors above the first stage 7 star were stunned. As for the Immortal Emperors below the first stage 7 star, they were curious and expectant. They had only heard of the calamity countless epochs ago, but they didn't know the root cause. Owner of All Heaven's shop, with your strength, you should know more than us, Yuan Di probed. Chu Bei shook his head. My memory seems to be a little incomplete. I don't have any memories of that calamity in my sea of consciousness. His memory was incomplete. This was what the golden disc had said to him. Could it have been erased by someone? Yuan Di, Immortal Emperor Heng Su, and the others looked at each other in shock. Chu Bei didn't reply. He only shook his head. Could it be that you participated in that calamity as well? Yuan Di made a bold guess. Tell me what you know, Chu Bei said indifferently. Meeting Chu Bei's gaze and the other Immortal Emperor's gazes, Yuan Di hesitated for a moment before sighing. That was a terrifying battle between Immortal Emperors. Countless Immortal Emperors died. Those Immortal Emperors were so powerful that I couldn't even muster up the will to resist. Yuan Di's eyes were filled with reminiscence. That battle seemed to have happened suddenly. I don't know the reason. At that time, I was only a 3rd star Immortal Emperor. I didn't even have the right to enter the battlefield. That calamity lasted for several epochs. Although they each opened up a new space-time battlefield, they still destroyed countless large domains and formed the so-called lost domains. Countless Immortal Emperors died, but their corpses were nowhere to be found. By the end of the battle, those Immortal Emperors were nowhere to be found. The strongest Immortal Emperors left in the All Heaven's great domains were only 3rd star Immortal Emperors. Heng Su, Gu Yuan, and I became the strongest Immortal Emperors in the All Heaven's great domains. After that, the All Heaven's great domains went through a period of peace. During this period of peace, we continued to cultivate and pursue the path of cultivation. Chapter 799. Until one day, the peace was broken. All the Immortal Emperors of that time were summoned by a mysterious force. We gathered in a space and waited for the mysterious force to appear. However, no one came even after a long time. Just when we were at a loss, a voice appeared in our sea of consciousness. That voice told us not to search for the truth of that calamity. At that time, an Immortal Emperor questioned that mysterious force, but what he received was a destructive punishment. In just an instant, that Immortal Emperor's soul dissipated without a trace. After witnessing that force's methods, none of us dared to ask again. We could only do as we were told. Later on, we followed their instructions and established the Immortal Emperor ranking battle. At this point, Yuan Di looked at Immortal Emperor Heng Su, Immortal Emperor Gu Yuan, and the others and said, "As for the cause of that calamity, we don't know either." Battle of Immortal Emperors? Mysterious force? Chu Bei frowned. Did that voice appear again? Yes. Yuan Di nodded. Every once in a while, right before the start of the Immortal Emperor ranking battles, this mysterious force would gather us together, and that voice would appear. Is this mysterious power you speak of from the origin world? Asked Chu Bei. I don't know. Yuan Di shook his head. Owner of all heaven's shop, with your strength, that mysterious force will definitely gather you when it appears again. At this moment, Immortal Emperor Hengsu added. That better be the case. Chu Bei nodded. Is that all? Chu Bei asked again. He didn't get any substantial information from Yuan Di's words. Yuan Di and Immortal Emperor Hengsu were silent and shook their heads. Sect Master, with your help, my cultivation has broken through to Emperor Realm 2. At the same time, the seals on my inherited memories have all been unsealed. I know a little about that calamity, even going back to before the appearance of the great regions of chaos. At this moment, the ancient dragon Phoenix walked up to Chu Bei with a respectful expression. As soon as the ancient dragon Phoenix's voice fell, Yuan Emperor, Hengsu Immortal Emperor, Yi Fan, Shi Hao, and the other Immortal Emperor's eyes instantly focused on the ancient dragon Phoenix. Their eyes were filled with anticipation. Like the Tian Luo clan, the Nine Netherworld clan, and the Feather clan, the ancient dragon Phoenix clan was also an ancient clan. In fact, they were even more ancient than the former. Tell me about it. Chu Bei turned to look at the ancient dragon Phoenix. Before the primal chaos great domain was born, the so-called origin of the world originated from the 18 origin tools. These 18 origin tools were mysterious to the extreme and contained boundless power. Even the weakest origin tool has the strength of a second-level emperor. They joined forces to create the great domain of the chaos heavens, left behind the cultivation method, and created countless experts. However, as the strength of these experts became more and more frightening, they began to set their sights on origin tools. However, the origin tools did not appear in the world. Even the most powerful immortal emperors could not find them, let alone control them. Since the primal chaos great domain was just formed, there were abundant cultivation resources. Those top immortal emperors developed their talents to the extreme and created 3 levels above the immortal emperor realm. They were the first emperor realm, second emperor realm, and third emperor realm. At that time, the immortal emperors who set their sights on the origin tools were all third-level immortal emperors. The ancient dragon Phoenix spoke slowly according to the inherited memories. After countless years of searching, the most powerful third-level immortal emperors still could not find the origin tools. However, they found another mysterious item. It was called the Origin Tool Catalog. This Origin Tool Catalog was like a map. It clearly marked the locations of the 18 origin tools. Moreover, other than the first 2 origin tools, the remaining 16 origin tools were all ranked according to their strength. After finding the Origin Tool Catalog, the third-level immortal emperors began to plan to hunt for the origin tools. Above the All-Heaven Shop, all the immortal emperors, including Chu Bei, listened carefully to the ancient dragon Phoenix's narration of the inherited memories. Ever since the third-level immortal emperors obtained the Origin Tool Catalog, they planned to hunt for the origin tools according to the strength of the origin tools. The location of the origin tools was indeed as the Origin Tool Catalog indicated. After a fierce battle, those immortal emperors obtained the 18th ranked origin tools. Although the hunt for the origin tools was successful, the issue of ownership caused a conflict, which led to an internal battle between the third-level immortal emperors. That battle lasted for several epochs and ended in failure. In order not to affect the hunt, the third-level immortal emperors made an agreement to wait until all the origin tools were hunted before deciding the ownership of the origin tools. The hunt for the origin tools lasted for countless epochs. At first, the third-level immortal emperors could hunt successfully on their first try. However, from the 10th origin tool onwards, their mission became much more difficult. They became accustomed to failure. The reason for this was that from the 10th origin tool onwards, the latter's strength had reached the third-level immortal emperors. Although the mission became more difficult, the third-level immortal emperors were also third-level immortal emperors. After many missions, they were still able to hunt successfully. When the third-level immortal emperors set their sights on the 7th-ranked origin tool, not only did the hunt not succeed, but they also lost an immortal emperor. That was the first time that one of their companions had died in a hunting operation. It was also from then on that they became more cautious. However, the 7th-ranked origin tool's strength had already exceeded their hunting range. After losing another companion, they chose to give up, not to mention the other 6 origin tools that were even more powerful. They didn't even have the courage to search for them. The hunt was temporarily suspended, and the third-level immortal emperors began to discuss the ownership of the origin tools. However, due to the small number of origin tools and the large number of immortal emperors, it led to another battle for the position of immortal emperor. That battle continued for several epochs. It was only when the catastrophe arrived that they stopped fighting. When they heard this, especially when the primordial dragon phoenix mentioned the word catastrophe, all the immortal emperors' gazes froze. Their auras were restrained to the extreme, and their divine strings were faintly tense. It was an indescribably terrifying battle. It was a battle between 2 mysterious items. To be precise, it was a battle between 2 origin tools that were ranked side by side on the origin tool list. The only thing that wasn't labeled was the strength of the 2 origin tools. In that battle, although the 2 top-tier origin tools were independent of the chaotic heavens, just the aftershock of the battle almost destroyed the entire chaotic heavens. It's strange. The stronger the person, the more painful it was under the aftershock of the battle. In particular, the third-level immortal emperors were all in extreme pain. No matter how they used their supreme divine powers, they couldn't resist that power. Chapter 800. The battle between the 2 origin tools lasted for hundreds of millions of years. The immortal emperors of the 3 realms of Emperor also suffered for hundreds of millions of years. Until one day, the 2 origin tools finally stopped fighting. No one knew the result of the battle between them. Since then, no one had seen them again. Even the origin tool chart did not have their location and whereabouts. It was as if they had suddenly disappeared. Gradually, peace returned to the chaotic heavens for a period of time. However, when the next epoch arrived, there was a change in the origin tool catalog. The 3rd-ranked origin tool suddenly descended on the chaotic heavens and began to slaughter all the immortal emperors of the chaotic heavens. Although the 3rd origin tool was not as powerful as the first 2 origin tools, it was still unimaginably terrifying. Even if all the immortal emperors of the 3 realms of Emperor joined forces, they could not suppress it. That was also the day of the catastrophe. Under the destructive attack of the 3rd origin tool, the immortal emperors died one after another. What's even more frightening is that the 3rd origin tool can actually use the dead immortal emperors to attack the living immortal emperors. Although those emperor corpses had lost their souls, their strength was not reduced when they were alive. Later on, the 3rd origin tool did not attack personally. Instead, it watched as the living immortal emperors of the chaotic heavens fought with the dead emperor corpses as if it was watching a show. As the battle continued, more and more immortal emperors died and became emperor corpses, becoming puppets of the 3rd origin tool. In the end, the surviving immortal emperors realized the danger and began to think of a solution. Fortunately, the 3rd origin tool disappeared. Unfortunately, those emperor corpses were still there. They seemed to have received orders from the 3rd origin tool and would not stop until they killed all the immortal emperors. After a few more years, the surviving immortal emperors jointly opened up a space-time battlefield that was independent of the chaotic heavens. No one knows the location of that space-time battlefield. At that time, they used themselves as bait to lure away those emperor corpses in exchange for peace in the chaotic heavens. The primordial dragon phoenix paused. In that catastrophe, 90% of the immortal emperors in the chaos multiverse disappeared. Some died and became emperor corpses, while others fought against the Emperor corpses in some unknown space-time battlefield. Although the disappearance of the immortal emperors brought peace to the all-heavens, it also exhausted all of the Genesis Chi. Sect Master, this is everything I know. With that, the primordial dragon phoenix bowed to Chu Bei. Chu Bei frowned. Is it reliable? After that day, the chaos great heavens returned to its usual peace. The 9 forces that had left the Origin realm never appeared again. All the immortal emperors, including the Origin the Arch and immortal Emperor Heng Su, continued to cultivate in seclusion. As for Chu Bei, he also repeatedly attempted to break through the barrier of the 5-star realm, hoping to make another breakthrough. Although he failed every time, he was pleasantly surprised that the inscriptions on the Origin tool chart became clearer. This peace lasted for 3 million years, until a new round of the Immortal Emperor ranking battle began in the Chaos Great Heavens. For this Immortal Emperor ranking battle, all the Immortal Emperors unanimously decided to fight in the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop. To be precise, it was a world battlefield that Chu Bei had constructed in the sky above the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop. Looking from the outside, the world battlefield above the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop was surging with majestic Emperor energy ripples. It was filled with boundless Origin energy aura. Stars revolved around it, and the Milky Way surged. Chu Bei had constructed the Origin Source Law in this world battlefield. It could withstand the aftermath of a battle between immortal emperors below the 2 stars Emperor realm. Because the world battlefield was located above the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop, the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop had become even more lively in recent days. Today, apart from the original residents of the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop, everyone who came from the outside exuded powerful auras. The weakest among them had the strength of a 3rd heaven quasi-immortal emperor. As for those below the 3rd heaven quasi-immortal emperor realm, they were very tactful. They stayed in the Emperor District near the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop to watch the entire Immortal Emperor battle. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.